Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you guys joining me here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, July 7th, 2026. We are live. So good to see all of you guys joining me here. Come in, have a seat. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a great conversation. It is good to have you here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. Helps me out to be able to reach more people. Let's be real. The algorithm does not like me, so I hope you do, and I hope you guys give a like. And if you're watching this on the rewatch, go ahead and give a hype as well if you found value in this. If you guys would like to, also, you can subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. Gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles, so you guys have that there, as you have seen before. Also, if you guys would like to give any questions and then I respond via video, or if you guys would like me to react to a video you find interesting, you can do that through qbounty at qbounty.com/Jaybefaunt there. So a blanket hello to everyone. Welcome to every single one of you for joining for this stream. This is going to be a very important one that we're going to be covering. There's a lot that has happened in the news over the weekend. Some things I can cover, some things I'm not going to be able to cover. Some things that happened last week that I didn't cover, that I said, you know what, I'm not going to cover because other people have done a great job at covering it. But these are some of the things that I find interesting, that I hope you find interesting too on this channel. And there's some things that you guys need to be alert about as well on this channel. So let's go into the thumbnails to go over that, and we shall get into that. And then after this segment is over, then we'll say hellos and salutations to everybody in the chat as well. So we're going to go into the thumbnail here. So we will be talking about later about Iran mourns. We're going to be talking about the funeral of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And so we'll be talking about that. That was massive. I don't know any other funeral that's ever been that big before in my life. We're going to talk about the significance of it. And we're also going to be watching some clips as well to show you the impact of how big this is and what the martyrdom of Ali Khamenei, what it actually means in real world terms, so you guys know how big of an impact it is. A little bit later in the show today, we're going to be talking about Disney and how Disney is punishing the students in Florida. Yes, the mouse doesn't like the kids. The mouse said, fuck them kids. And we're going to show you why, and why Mickey is pointing to a graph about teacher salaries. But first, we're going to be talking about a very serious subject. I have friend to the channel, Kevin Ronca from Right Brain Studios, joining me to talk about how he and Mark Rubendahl and his other partner, and then Right Brain Studios, has been censored. So we're talking about right brain silence. We're going to be getting into this immediately because I think this is something you guys absolutely need to hear about. So we're going to be discussing this with Right Brain co-founder and amazing film director, producer, and editor, Kevin Ronca. Good to have you back.
Thanks for having me. I love the photos. Where'd you find those? Where'd you dig those up? I love it with the censorship over it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I find where I can find them, you know.
I was just like, it's like, where is that photo taken? No, I like it. I dig it. I appreciate you having me on, man. You're like one of the only podcasts that will have us on. And I want to just start before we get into it by saying I'm not on here to like complain per se, because for me, I think I represent an interesting case because it's terrible what happened to me, but my heart goes out to people like yourself who are like political commentators, where like, so like Right Brain TV, like social media for us is just a bridge. I mean, we want to hear the expression, art, and thoughts of our community. So we go on there for that. But on our end, what we're outputting is a bridge or tunnel, if you will, to get you to come to the website, which is really our life's work. So if the social media goes down, it's like the bridge is closed, but we still have this foundation we've built, this sort of sanctuary of underground art. But for people I know who their YouTube channel is their livelihood, where they are a political commentator, and this is their home, and they're essentially going on stage, those are the people who I think we represent a case that imagine if we were someone like that and we didn't have the Right Brain TV website, we would be absolutely destroyed. And some of the people I've talked to about have been like, man, if it was me, like I would be like annihilated. Like that would be everything I built for 4 or 5 years. So luckily for us, we haven't really built up a YouTube. But I just want to say that this isn't in any way me like looking for sympathy, as more as raising a caution, because I'm in a unique position, because thank God this was not my everything, but it certainly could have been, say, you or somebody else, and I think that could have been catastrophic, especially for indie news, indie media. I think it just So I just wanted to preface that I'm not looking for any sympathy. I'm more so, I think we're an interesting case to talk about it, because I'm not like sitting here crying, but I'm like, man, imagine if there was no right brain TV. This was everything we had.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you said you're not here to complain, but I think complaints can be good when it's in the sphere of bringing um, awareness and attention to a particular important matter. Um, and if you can start off and explain to us exactly what happened and how Right Brain TV was silenced throughout social media, all the different social medias that were involved, and what do you think? What do you think was behind this censorship?
Sure, and I guess I should say I will be complaining. That's just in my nature. But I guess what I say is I'm not looking for anyone's sympathy per se. That's what I should say. But yeah, you will hear some complaining. I think what I want to do is present a dire warning, because if it can happen to us, it can certainly happen to you, right? So we protect the speech of people even we vehemently stand against, to protect our own speech, right? We don't protect just the speech of people we agree with as much as like I'm protecting the speech of someone I don't like or don't agree with, as I'm protecting my own speech. That's what free speech is, right? It's a speech. It's both your speech and those who which you vehemently disagree with. My thing is this: we've been circulating. We've been trying a new idea where we have multiple hosts. So like Mark and I never wanted to be in front of the camera. We despise being in front of the camera. It wasn't until we take a lot of feedback from our community, and early on, some of our community members, and we started doing these screenings weekly, because we wanted to offer an option for people who aren't members to be able to still experience Right Brain TV. And we also thought it was a little more lively than the Classic Movie Mondays. I think streaming is a great method of it's a solid way and a efficient way for people to take in and feed their head cinema and art. However, I think that if you can't do an in-person, like a live screen, even virtually, is really what cinema is about. Like bring people together in the moment, in person, live. Streaming is a very, in my opinion, like COVID way to experience things very on your own. So we started doing these free screenings, and then someone told me, like, if you guys aren't in front of the camera, people are just going to mistrust Right Brain TV. Like it's going to be a little bit odd. So that's when we started going in front of the camera and doing these shows, but mostly just to introduce them. So finally, we've decided to start having what we've always wanted, which is like sort of circulating hosts, adding more hosts. So me and Mark aren't doing like 5 or 6 screenings a week. We're really doing those out of a necessity. We can't really afford to pay hosts, but a couple of people have reached out and said they wanted to start hosting. So we were like, that's amazing. We want the Right Brain hosts to represent the world we live in, which is not just like 2 of the nerdiest white guys. It's like lots of different kinds of people with different perspectives that, a woman, it's not like, oh, all women have the same perspective or monolithic, but say someone from Seattle who has had a totally different experience than us is going to see things completely different, and then thus bring something unique to a film when they're hosting it, as well as what their taste might be. So we love the idea of like having a lot of different kinds of hosts. So we decided to just try a bunch. That's actually how we found out that our entire Instagram had been nuked. Like not just the Right Brain TV account we built for 5 years, 7,500. It's not a ton, but we had actually gotten rid of 2,500 accounts that like over the years we purged them, either because we felt like they weren't engaging with us, or they were early on accounts that were kind of bots, or like we had purged a lot of accounts. We were really closer to like 10,000. But for us, with all the restrictions on our account, we had over 40 community guideline violations, and many we just didn't fix because we had over 100 on TikTok, and we won 90% of our appeals, but it's still counted against our account. So like this has been like an ongoing issue for us. And by the end on TikTok, they were just violating us on stuff that wasn't real. Like one time it said nudity, and it was like an experimental film where a woman was wearing a mask that was a mirror. There was like no sex in it at all. Like, but see, the thing is, even if you win the appeal, it would still count as a strike. And they owed us money for our TikTok creator fund. So conveniently, they've just violated us enough to take our money away. But back to Instagram. So Instagram is like one of the only social medias we really were actively using anymore. And in the beginning, we played ball. They tell us, delete this trailer you have that has the Ansar Allah in the beginning, talking about decapitating the Western Empire, right? Or as people call them, the Houthis. I've broken the habit of calling that as it's a derogatory term. But so we had a trailer where they were talking about decapitating the empire, and we like putting stuff like that, fusing, revolutionary anti-imperialist figures with anti-imperialist cinema and art in our trailer. It's kind of like part of the vibe of Right Brain, dismantling the empire. And we ended up winning the appeal on that. But as time went on, we'd start getting violated for like the cover of our TV guide. So every month we put out a TV guide so Right Brain members know like what's playing that month, what the theme is. And they're violating, like, we're getting a guideline violation for like the cover of that, or like the new, for instance, we'll drop in a new film collection for our members, and we want to let people know about it. So we did like Vietnam War films from the perspective of the Vietnamese, right? that was violated. That was considered a community guideline violation. There's like really no explanation for it. We did a African martial arts screening with an anti-imperialist activist run gym in DC called High Style Jiu-Jitsu. That got violated. It was like a trailer for like African stick fighting, which one of the films was about, and they violated us for that. So I mean, they're just kind of arbitrary. But it got to the point where it was like we would have had to change like 36 posts. So we just said, I'm allowed to curse, right? I don't want to get you like demonetized or something. I don't really know what the rules of YouTube are. Oh, I can't hear you. So I just said, you know what?
Fuck it. Yeah, you are. You're good. It's not, as long as it's not too much, but we're good.
Me and Mark just decided like fuck it. Like we again, like as I mentioned, Right Brain TV is our life's work. That's the sanctuary we're building, completely independent from, we don't really use our YouTube, and social media to us is really a way to take in the work our community's doing. Like we're interested in what they're doing, what they're posting, what they're expressing. It's not just all about Right Brain. We have some incredible artists and activists and minds that are in our community. And but the only reason we use it is strictly as a bridge or tunnel or a way to raise awareness and get you to our website. That's really all it ever was. So at a certain point, we decided to like, we hate social media. I mean, it sounds lame. I know everybody says it's a necessary evil. Israel is an unnecessary evil, meaning like it provides no benefit to the world whatsoever, and it's evil. Social media is what you call a necessary evil. It's something that has a lot of problems with it, but it's these days you kind of have to have it to build. And there's so much information hitting people, but we aren't as tied to it, and that like I mean, it's probably to our detriment. We're just like, dude, if we're not gonna get rid of all of our TV guides and all our Instagram posts that are vital to Right Brain TV, and if they're gonna nuke the account, they're gonna nuke the account. We said that until it actually happened. So going back to having new hosts, we have all these new hosts that we've been cycling last month. And one of them texts me at like, I don't know, 9 a.m. And she's like, she said, you got zucked. I'm like, nah, yeah, I'm kind of a dinosaur. So I had no idea what kind of, I thought it was like some kind of an entendre. And I'm like, I said, we got zucked. And yeah. She's like, hey, your Instagram's gone. She's like, and I checked, it wasn't just mine. It was my personal account. And it was our secret backup account. So they got them all. So it's clearly like very coordinated, and they even took my wife's art string theory collections was taken down too. Now we were able to appeal to win that, but we lost all our other appeals, and it was treated like court. Like you can wait a certain amount of days, but if you appeal and lose, then it's taken away forever. So it was kind of ridiculous. We all tried it. What's weird is we even lost the appeal on the backup account that barely posted. Now what was the post that did it? It was a Happy Father's Day post with Sinwar holding his son up, and his 8 to 10-year-old son has a machine gun. But the thing is, the post didn't say anything about Israel, didn't say anything about Hamas. It was just a picture of Sinwar, the revolutionary, the late revolutionary, holding up his son who has a machine gun. It said Happy Father's Day. That was what they used. That was what they it was a coordinated mass reporting by what I believe to be a mix of Zionists and monarchists. This isn't the first time we've had coordinated attacks. I think people think like, you're paranoid because our social media numbers kind of lie. But you have to imagine Right Brain TV as a website has almost 1 million visits a year. So the numbers, I mean, the numbers we're putting up, for example, on our Instagram at the time, sometimes some months we were reaching up to 200,000 people, but the video views would be like 400. So you could do the math on what getting 36 community guideline violations will do. When did my account start acting funny? 3 years ago, 3+ years ago, before October 7th. Now, I think it's amazing that there's a lot of people out now cheering against the genocide that have awakened to it. I do think it's unfortunate that it took a genocide to awaken people. Perhaps had we been awakened before the genocide, there may not have been a genocide. That being said, though, it is still an incredible and tragic thing that the Palestinian people are so beautiful. They've actually awakened the entire planet. What that told us is, by the way, on a quick side note, this really highlighted what me and Mark have been saying, because early on people be like, movies are just movies. Like, don't you guys overrate what you do? No, the movie camera is the most dangerous weapon in human history. My example of that is this. The people of Palestine that were filming whatever they could on their phones literally awakened an entire world. It united people during the most divisive times politically I could probably remember. It truly united the planet. And that's what it was. If you talk to any like soccer mom who suddenly has become super politically active, they'll tell you, I was scrolling my timeline, I just could not take it. It's a litmus test if you have any humanity left. And if you don't, why are you even here? Like, once you lose your humanity, you're done. That's it, in my opinion. But the movie camera is also the most dangerous weapon in the wrong hands, because how did we even get to this point? Because of the dehumanization of Arabs and Muslims over the last 34 years through Hollywood. which was coordinated and purposeful, going back to the future. Who is giving the plutonium to him? It's like these machine gun toting Arabs. You can see the villains in almost all Hollywood movies always line up with their either future foreign policy or the current foreign policy they're trying to embed. Who was it before that? The Russians in fucking everything. So I guess
just an aside, I mean, you want to talk about like anti-Russian propaganda that came back then. Rocky and Bullwinkle. Hello.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Lawrence and Natasha.
Up into like Rocky when he ends the Cold War by beating Drogo, and Drogo's like this steroid pumping, and then the cartoon. I mean, going all the way back. I mean, you could see the beginning of like when the space race started, all the way up, and most James Bond movies, some like ambiguous Russian villain who wants to destroy the world. It's always, I mean, but I don't want to get. I guess the point I'm making is like the power of the image is immensely powerful. But if you were somebody who was shouting out and yelling against the genocide, which we've been since 2016. When you're yelling out and no one else really is, or not as many people, you stand out a lot more. When there's a crowd, it's very easy to blend in. So when we're posting, which is what really destroyed our account 3 years ago, when we started to have sort of weird, sort of like, what do you call it? Shadow ban issues was, and this is before the Zionist entity had really latched into Instagram as much as it would. Post 10/7, clearly they brought in all these anti-Semitic, random jobs they would make up. But we had posted that very famous now, cartoon where it's an IDF soldier looking in a mirror and there's a Nazi looking back. When we posted it, it was like when you like yell out a joke and like nobody else does and it just gets dead silent. And so we had gotten a restriction on that, and our account was never the same after that. The post had like 300, 400 plus likes and a lot of hate, but our account never acted the same. And then we started to get a lot of, then it was like they were hunting for us. I feel like we couldn't make a post without some kind of an issue. And then we were not allowed to go live for like 280 days that it racked up to. It was like our sentence. Yeah. When we got banned eventually. So when I woke up and it got nuked, like we had kind of prepared, but it really came out of left field. We definitely didn't think the Sinwar thing was going to do it because it just said Happy Father's Day. Nothing else. No, like fuck Israel or, that was enough. So that just lets people know, like, at this point, they don't even need to explain it to you anymore. And yes, they are a private corporation. That's why, they can do whatever the fuck they want. If I were them, I'd be worried because if we get another account nuke, we're just going to go deeper underground and we're going to go out more in person. And you're not going to be able to see nearly as much of what we are doing. So that's not a threat or anything. I'm just saying more so like, we're not going to, I love some of my friends who make like 20 accounts, but we're not going to do that. It's just not in our nature. We're not going to keep making accounts. We happen to have like one backup account that had a different name in the event that the backup went down. I never thought we'd need it. And thus we pulled out the last remaining account we had, which again had a totally different name, unrelated to Right Brain, and we're able to flip it. But I have a friend who every time he makes any account associated with that name, he's automatically banned. So I guess instead of strictly what we're seeing especially during wartime, I think that Carl Zah's account nuked overnight on YouTube. The censorship is going to really ramp up during any kind of wartime, and even just in the event of Israel's, slowly merging more and more with our government, which is, I hear people say it's like, oh, we're captured by Israel. Don't act like the U.S. is some innocent. What you have is two savage, rabid animals who both have a leash, which is Netanyahu and Trump, who are both just they're not the problem either. They are just playing their role as everybody who will take that seat will do. But right now, presently, they're both holding a leash and they both think the other is the master. That's what you have. And they both tell their friends they're the master. Who's the master? I don't know. But what we're finally seeing now as well is I do not believe this is a ruse this time around. I actually think they are treading in different directions, and I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with, Trump seeing the light or anything. It is they are both fighting for their life. You have Netanyahu in a situation where he'll likely see a jail cell if he can't keep the war going. And you have Trump in a situation where if he does keep the war going, he will certainly become a lame duck president and could find himself in a courtroom. Will he do jail time? No. But will it destroy his legacy? Certainly. And they'll be doing everything they can to try to put an indictment on. I mean, they've got him for less. The thing is, this is one of the only times where the Democrats' hands aren't bloody too, because Trump didn't keep them in the loop on anything that was going on in Iran. Remember, they had to keep having these meetings, and they had no idea. They were always playing catch up with him. His secrecy might be the only reason they can actually hold him accountable for this. So you have Trump and Netanyahu, two people who would literally throw anybody to the wolves, no matter how loyal, treading in different directions. But that'll keep us in this sort of purgatory state with Iran, and thus we're going to see more censorship than we've ever seen. And we did start to see that. Like when Carl Zah, there was other people I knew who were waking up and having their entire YouTube account nuked, 4 or 5 years of their life's work. So I believe if you are going to complain and trying to better myself, instead of the old Right Brain way, which was all about, before we became Right Brain TV, we were Right Brain studio, which is just a collective. There was 8 of us, and it was just about burning everything down. As I've grown, as I like to think I've grown, I've become more into the idea with Right Brain TV of not just burning something down, but building something in its place. So when I provide this example of how bad censorship is, using me as a model, someone who luckily has something else, which is my life's work, which is Right Brain TV, which gets a lot more traction than any of our social medias, I would say we would like to provide a solution to creators. We are not interested in, like, you know, whatever you think of our website, it is a self-sufficient, membership-driven website. And it can stream, and you can live stream, and you can do books. So if you have a Substack, you can put all your work, you can do music, or maybe you have like podcast audio, you can put it all in one place. You can detach and detether yourself from these shackles, the stranglehold that these big tech companies have over you. They are holding all the cards, and they can do whatever they want, and you have no say. They can arbitrarily destroy everything you've done for the last 4 or 5 years after caking off of your, you know, paying you pennies on the dollar by putting you in competition with the millions of other people fighting for your spot. So they've kind of built the narrative. You're at their mercy, and everything you've done overnight can be gone. So we believe you should have a fallout shelter, and we didn't invent squares with photos with watch now buttons connected to it, which is essentially what a streaming site is, or a PDF that flip. We didn't invent any of this. We're not trying to be the innovators of kind of tech. What we're trying to do is offer independent media a backup plan. And what I mean by that is we'd be happy to split the money that we spent on our website, not all of it. Obviously, we had some trial and error, but a rough, low-cost estimate split amongst however many people are willing to jump in with us, and split the trial and error thing that we've come up with, which is a very user-friendly, and we timed it, takes exactly as much time to upload something on our site as it does on Facebook, and even have a tutorial and have a web developer that can help customize. This is not a sales pitch. What I'm saying is I would like more and more people to work with us and let us help you have a fallout shelter if they try to nuke you. So that way, Carl's eye wakes up tomorrow, his account's nuked. That's okay. Not only does that become a sales pitch, like you're trying to trick anyone, but telling your audience, like, I just got nuked. So this is an even better reason why you should come to my actual website, where I am in full control. You are a member. It goes directly to me. And my stuff is on my own server that cannot be nuked. And I'm not going to say them out loud, but we have we were certainly inspired by Iran, have a very dense thing that we call defense spending, which is many, 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 many contingencies that are low cost. So they say, well, what if our domain goes down? And then you have 2 new ones. The website, our secret recipe, if you will, is the size of about, I don't know, less than a gig. It's like a music album. It can be sent very quickly. So we're not talking about something dense or heavy, and we've worked very hard over the years to make it very user friendly. And so I think I'm offering a solution as well. But in regards to censorship, this is going to be a real problem, especially when you hear about Israel merging with our military. Look at Israel, where if the censorship in Israel got absolutely out of control, and you hear about Iran and the DPRK, they wouldn't even let you could get jail time for filming a building that blows up next to you, which is a common reaction in the world we live in if something explodes next to you. A lot of the way we get our information, for example, was happening in Gaza. A lot of people woke up to that because of sort of cinema verite, fly on the wall is how some of us get our news. You can't always trust what you see. It's become an aspect of independent media. We call it the Palestinian new wave when it comes to cinema. Cinema is not just, very carefully done Dutch angles. Cinema's, in my opinion, any kind of movie, you call it any kind of moving image media that, in my opinion, has purpose, moves with purpose. Movies that move with purpose, to me, are cinema. People who have a stronger sense of the language of how these things work and the psychology behind it. But as censorship gets worse and worse, as we sort of merge more and more with Israel, not just our military, I'm imagining they're going to be sharing more and more of their surveillance apparatus. That's one of the only things that Israel exports. The only thing Israel gives to the world is death, destruction, and the only exports they really have beyond that to governments, which is why they don't offer anything. Like I said, they're not a necessary evil. They're an unnecessary evil. It's the only thing they really export is surveillance equipment to other governments to spy on their citizens and other people. Like, they don't provide anything for the citizens, though. They don't have olives or, you know what I mean? So it's going to get more and more dangerous. And I think more and more people should be preparing these fallout shelters. So say it is wartime tomorrow and they bomb Iran again, or one of the other many imperialist conquests. That's all right, because we all have fallout shelters. We're not trying to, and you can improve it, you can customize it. I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to do this because I'm trying to make a bunch of money. Like I said, I'm trying to split what I put in. I more so get my media from people like you, like Max Blumenthal. I go to you for commentary. I go to him for news. That's how I get my news. So I would love to do any small part I can in safeguarding independent media. Every time I see one of your accounts go down, it crushes me because Right Brain has a role to play. We are not independent media. We are a film. We would like to work side by side, and we have collaborated with the Gray Zone on screen. We have built some of those bonds up, but we also want to be able to offer something to aid you kind of unconditionally, because what you guys do is so important. And it was scaring me seeing how many accounts were just vanishing overnight. They give us all of our information about what's really going on in the world right now. You wake up tomorrow and Danny Haifang, Carl Zai, you, the Gray Zone are all nuked. Some of them have websites, some of them don't. And you don't want to be having those thoughts the next day. That's why, again, we're in a unique case. If this was all I had, I mean, I'd be probably blubbering right now. But I'm in a unique case because I was like, okay, well, at least we have Right Brain TV. We can figure the rest out. But it made me really gravely more concerned for my friends who don't have Right Brain TV, who provide news, right? You could watch a Right Brain film. A lot of the stuff we play is timeless. But a lot of the work you guys do is crucial and happening right now. And I just imagine, what would we do if we didn't have these eyes and ears around the world or unable to see them, take them down, all these accounts? And as we see more and more corporations and you have like Larry Ellison buying up more and more things, conglomerating them with the Zionist control, you might start to see, his hand, these Zionist hands in a lot of platforms, mean they could pull the plug on everything. Because what happened is right after Instagram, conveniently, we went to complain about it on X, and we were mass reported on X and put in X jail for a week right after what just happened. So we couldn't even tell anybody about it, and that's the only other social media we have. So we just couldn't speak for a week. Think about it. TikTok, they took our creator fund away. X, we're in jail for a week. We can't even post. We can't even message people. And Instagram, all of our accounts have been taken offline. It makes you feel like someone zipped your mouth shut. You're pleading, and like for me, again, I'm in a unique position because Right Brain TV is our thing. But I do think it raises a bigger question about our actual independent media, which is where my heart lies, because they are such a crucial. The fifth estate, which is dying slowly. You only have Blumenthal and a few people left. I mean, that's really the last. Those actual truth seekers in the world are they're an endangered species, in my opinion. The John Pilgers of the world, the Julian Assanges of the world, right? These people are. There's less and less of them, and then you serve a purpose, and you guys, many commentators there's a lot of information being thrown, and you give us a sharp perspective, and you start to tie these things together for a growing audience, many who are just waking up and have a lot to catch up on. So I think that we need to find ways to make sure we could safeguard against it. All I can offer, which is what I want to try to, you want to be providing instead of just complaining, is the Right Brain Secret Recipe, essentially getting them set up for a fraction of what we paid, the very true communism, everyone throwing in. And if you want to customize it and do whatever, I'm not talking about owning anything. I'm not talking about you paying me monthly like some people would do. I'm saying it's yours, one-time payment to kick in what we put in over the last 5 years, not the hours we spent, just the tech itself. Because that's what our members do, right? Our members don't pay for the movies. We have a great legal team that looks into films. We also are great at reaching out, and then we pay when it's needed and have a very strong understanding of the laws of licensing. And our pitches always worked very well when we reach the people who own the film, especially when they're older films, whether from Africa or otherwise, because we do not charge our members per film. And we make our choices based on how much things are going to cost, how much that's going to amp up things for our members. Our members mostly pay for the tech itself, and we basically they all throw in together for the monthly fees to keep it running, and a little bit for content. So, in a way, it's that same mind state. If I was to offer anything to independent media to help safeguard them, would be throwing in a little bit of what we paid and giving you the keys to our website. We're not trying to put everything under one umbrella. I actually think putting people under one umbrella has been the problem. We're all under one umbrella, and that umbrella gets nuked. We all end up on one website. It's centralized, right? Yeah, we all monopolize under one. I'm not gonna say who it was, but there was another streaming site that tried to buy us like 1 year in, which I thought was bizarre. And they were the communist streaming site. We're not. We're an anti-imperialist underground streaming site. Anyone's welcome. But they had mentioned, well, the left needs a Viacom. No, it doesn't. Fuck Viacom, right? Viacom's a monopoly. We've tried it this way, this attempt, whether it's media or whether it's just like the resistance movements, the activist movement, like the left, like trying to get into like one umbrella, and it ends up being a fucking circus tent, right? Like it's like what we need is what I'm already seeing, which is tribes, collectives, parties, orgs, individuals, people building their own thing. Instead of someone always wants to be at the top, that could be a part of a hierarchy of a smaller group. But that's why we say we're willing to work with any group as long as Right Brain can maintain its autonomy. But in that same way, we need to detether from all being on YouTube and start to spread out, right? That's a true network. And then connecting, so you could jump from my website to say, or you could have a network. You could have like 5 sites like Right Brain where it's all your stuff on there. It has your, there's a row where you have all your books, like all your Substack stuff could be moved there because we have a book section. There's a nice little page flipping. And then you could jump down, you could have your audio podcast, and you could have your videos, you just move everything over, even if it's just your backup. But then with a click of a button, you could jump to say another person in your network, and that's their whole thing. So if YouTube goes down tomorrow, we're all connected or threaded together. And that's the vision I see of the future. If we stay at the, I got a small dose of it. If we stay under their thumb, under their control the way we are now, we're setting ourselves up, man. I mean, a lot of people I know, big tech has your entire future in their grasp right now. And I think that it's terrifying. Like, had we been, say, one of my favorite independent medias, it's not that big of a deal. It's just an Instagram. But if everything got nuked, including their backup, I mean, I had a couple people who are doing really well, better than us, that said, dude, if that happened to me, I'd be crying. It'd be everything. That scares me. That I was thinking for them, like, we're all very vulnerable when I'm hearing things like that. I mean, more and more people are saying that. I'm like, damn, like, I don't really care about us, but like, that means a lot of people are vulnerable right now. And it's making me nervous because I kind of rely on you guys for my news. And if I do, I imagine a lot of people do.
Yeah. In fact, one of the points that I wanted to make as well is that when this is before you proposed this to me, there was a content creator that is with another streaming platform, that independent streaming platform, that put out a notice for everybody to join, who is a content creator on the left. And I reached out and I heard back, and then I gave my channel and all the information for them to check me out to see if there's a thumbs up or thumbs down. And I haven't heard back. I replied again and said, hey, what's going on? And I still haven't heard back. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, not even worth enough to reply back to me. That says something. And then on top of it, and a lot of people aren't going to like the way I put this out here, but those of us who are on the left and we are Black, I mean, we also get more of a blind eye than anybody else, because here's the thing. Whether it's me, Savvy Savs, Jamal Thomas, Garland Nixon, Nico House, right? A lot of times people look at us and then they will like not look at us, or they'll go to somebody else and go, well, they're more credible just because of the color of their skin. And then they'll get more, people to watch them. But then at the same time, when if we were to get nuked, it would be less noticed. And so for us, it's like we feel like we're in a more vulnerable position, partly because of who we are, right? And so I think it's a really great idea, because at this juncture, what's going on with not just independent media, but also on social media that we have to deal with, because you remember, ever since 2023, my channel has been demonetized up until December of last year.
Yep.
And so I've been working only just with funds from Patreon. I didn't get any type of AdSense money or anything like that. So for
how
me,
much does Patreon take, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what do they take? How much is Patreon taking off the top? I never had one.
It's a small percentage. I think it's like 10, maybe 15% tops.
I was just curious. Yeah, I was just curious.
It's not a huge amount versus YouTube. Like, for instance, a lot of times people send super chats, things like that. YouTube takes like 40%. And so on top of that, in the AdSense, I can tell you guys right now, I didn't get any type of revenue whatsoever from YouTube last month because my revenue was under $100. I didn't get anything. So the next time, basically I'm getting paid from YouTube bi-monthly because I just don't hit that mark. And part of it is because AdSense because of because of numbers, partially because I'm suppressed. And then another part is some of that max is also calculated by super chats, things like that, memberships, things like that. So then that adds on to it. But if it doesn't hit $100, I don't get anything. And so, and this is not me necessarily complaining. I'm just giving the facts.
No, I don't.
How
I
it
think
operates. And so if I were to, for instance, do what you're proposing, then that means I would be able to go onto my Substack. And for anybody, who has Substack, we also have an email list, and I would be putting out that email and say, hey, this is my backup. I have this website. And if in case things don't work out on YouTube, Rumble, Kick, or whatever, then I also have that. Or if you guys just want to skip the YouTube and all the ads, you guys can just go straight to my website. And then
I see even like if you like what you see on Substack and just want to see all my work, JB, JB, however you would say .com is my Substack. It's got my videos and it's got audio podcasts, that thing, and you said, no ads, uncensored. That's the other thing. See, what I think is going to happen is we start to do I can't say anything about this other thing because we've been testing it. It's going to be a very large part of Right Brain TV we're going to be rolling out. Though it almost seems obvious that we haven't done it, but it's the last pillar that we haven't unveiled. We've been working on for developing for a long time, the tech and otherwise. You have streaming, obviously. We have live shows in person and online. There would be one other way in which to consume things, which I think more and more people are getting interested in as they get tired of the rows and rows of content. Wait, there's a reason why I was bringing that up, but
I was talking about monetization and essentially like having a Substack and putting on out of email.
So that's right. Yeah, so the way I see it right now, I think we're one of the only places where you can have Rome come on and Q&A at 12 o'clock at night and no one really knows we're in here. And it's like what HBO used to be. I mean, he said some things that my mother was terrified we're gonna end up on the list. And I was like, there's no one in here. I mean, at least for now. I mean, like, having that autonomy also allows you, I think, to be able to be uncensored at a time where we need people to be uncensored. I'd much rather watch this independent media off YouTube where they can say anything, because at a certain point, we're going to need that. If censorship gets worse, I'm going to want the raw and unfiltered truth. As censorship gets worse and things get more dire, that's a recipe for disaster. If the language gets more and more and more dangerous to speak truth to power, and Israel and the U.S.'s acts get more and more heinous, how are we to know? I think that having an uncensored is like what HBO was in the when I was growing up, right? That's the only place you could go to see certain things on TV, whether it was the documentary, the series Generation Kill or something, where they took you to the Iraq war during the invasion. You just weren't gonna be able to see that on, the way that HBO was able to bring things into your living room that you couldn't get. I think that's going to get like that with YouTube. As censorship's getting out of control on YouTube, soon it's going to be like daytime TV was in the 90s. I mean, you're going to be able to get away with it, right? If I'm getting banned for having a picture of Sinwar, I can only imagine what's going to be facing independent media going forward, which is why I think now would be the time. You don't want to be making these choices. I think what occurred to me after Instagram nuke is I wouldn't want to be making these choices now if I had nothing to fall back on. And I think that I didn't come on here necessarily for a sales pitch, but more so what I see as a vision of the future of what should be the resistance for media and cinema and art as a weapon, which is also dangerous, is us all uncoupling from you. You can always have a YouTube. No one's saying to get rid of it, but uncoupling in a sense of starting to build your fallout shelter and then threading a way to network them together so that we can jump from one to the other and completely cut them eventually, if need be, out of the picture entirely. One, we go underground and become a lot more ghosts. And two, as long as we stay connected, we still have social media to stay connected. But I think in this journey ahead, YouTube and some of these platforms are going to be a great place to promote, but may less and less want to be the place where maybe you're living per se, or where you're sort of renting out a space. Because I think you're going to want your own space. I mean, when you're telling me what you're making on streams, it's like the amount of money they're taking from you probably this year would probably be more than enough to get started, customize, and probably be a year's worth of paying for your server and then some. I mean, having all your stuff backed up on a server is great too', just in case they nuke your channel. I mean, what happens if they nuke your channel? I guess walk me through YouTube if a channel gets nuked. I'm not aware. Do you have all your videos? Like, can you access them, or is everything just gone? Like, well, because with Instagram, everything was gone. We had a lot of that are gone forever.
I have some of my videos on a hard drive, but that hard drive is full, and I haven't been able to purchase another video. And I actually had to permanently delete some videos just to fit them on my computer. People got to remember, like, I am working poor. I don't have the money to be able to buy a whole brand new, external hard drive, all the time. I don't have these things, and so it's tough, especially, plus, I have that work, and so I can't even make that content that I want. There's some people who, like, for instance, a breaking news story happens because they are more available to be able to do these things. Then boom, they can jump on, have the breaking news come out, boom, they can get thousands and thousands of views on that, and then because they're monetized, they can make money off of that, while also still delivering the news in a more accurate form without the imperialist slop that they give them. But I can't, because I'm busy, serving customers.
Working to survive. You can't sit around and wait for the scoop. I mean,
yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest issues for me, is like I like my hands are tied. So this is why, like, a lot of breaking news stories I haven't been able to cover because I'm at work. And so I'm trying to grow the channel so that I can be able to do those things while still being able to, because I still want to be able to have a job so that I'm so grounded and I can keep my ears to the ground, as far as workers concerned, because I don't want to be one of those people who is so detached from what workers feel and how the average American feels that, whenever I say something, it feels out of touch. But I want to be able to still do that. But I want, to be able to push forward more full time doing this than any other job, because this is actually my passion, versus a job is just there just to make sure that the bills are paid. So
well, I see the disadvantage of you can't sit around and wait for a scoop. You have to work to survive. I think that your show and Right Brain TV and a lot of our other friends like Roman, I think there is when we started Right Brain TV, it was almost like a piece of art in itself. It wasn't an answer, it was a question, which is what is in the Hegelian sense. You can scale up to even the documentaries we make. To scale down in our library are meant to be having you asking questions, not giving you the answers. I think that that's good art, and I think that your channel, if you were to scale it up to all these small episodes comprising one giant mess, I think we're asking the same question thematically, which is, do people really want the raw truth, or want to have those dangerous conversations, or see that darker side of life that we were told when we were in the industry was niche? Nobody wants to see that stuff. No one wants to have these conversations. No one wants to explore these dangerous topics and what the real world's like, and the horrific truths and the stigmas that we need to shatter, and the narratives that are unconventional that we're often feel afraid in our regular life to broach. Right Brain TV is a place where you can explore these things without feeling judged by your peers. You're basically outcast in the fascist liberal arts film school that we went to. I think you and I are both asking that same question, I guess, thematically. I mean, there's a lot of other questions, but I think that the audience now more than ever, especially post 10/7. Again, I think it's a bummer, a genocide, but still I'm glad to see people are woken up. I've never seen people this awake since 2016 Bernie, but they're more radicalized now, and they're more united. The last time I saw so many people that were disenfranchised from both the left and the right, which are trying to use that language anymore, was when I was in Philly during the riots, protests, filming in our first documentary at the DNC, the Democratic Convention, Philadelphia, the contested convention. I've never seen people, but now it's more radicalized and it's much more vital. It's not the Bernie Sanders, whatever bullshit we were all fed of politics. It is a genocide. It is as cut and dry as that. And we see people come together against genocide. Nothing more horrific than the blowing up of babies, mass murder of innocents for imperialism and apartheid. This is the time, and I think this is the moment where we asked this question 5 years ago. We didn't know what was going to happen with Gaza, and people used to come on Right Brain TV more so for the shock value content. And we'd have to put inside of it, like you put candy and put the pill inside of it, of the really stuff we were interested in, which is the anti-imperialism and the what we thought was a really, really valuable stuff. Now it's the opposite. People are really interested. I keep picking on soccer moms. I don't know why, but we do have like audience members like that who are just like getting into this stuff, just waking up, that somehow, there's so many different ways people have randomly found our site. We have a very hodgepodge community. And now more than ever, those people are looking for the kind of stuff you and I make. And I'd say the questions we're asking and the journeys we're taking. that we were told for so many years, you can't even go down that route. You can't even challenge that question. You'd be a terrorist. You'd be this. I think now more than ever, it means we need to safeguard it, and we need to start building a network outside of this sort of these shackles of big tech censorship, especially as we see more and more. I think we all knew Zionists were behind most of it. I don't think we realized how behind they'd even threaded their way so deeply into the big tech and are even buying it up. Larry Ellison is a very dangerous man, and Palantir, these are very dangerous people. We may not be able to escape their surveillance completely, but I do think starting to build a network that is a little more guerrilla would be very useful, and no one's going to build it for us. I think allowing them to build the sort of town square that we embed all our data in is probably not a great thing. Starting to build an underground guerrilla network of content and media would probably be a good thing, like Pirate TV used to be. And I think we don't give our audiences enough credit. There's like, oh, everyone's a goldfish brain. We think there's swipers and there's typers. There's people who, it's not just like you say, it's just my generation. No, there's people who literally, maybe even post 10/7 now, are looking shit up. There's a new interest, a new thirst. Like when you first wake up and realize how little you know about the world around you, which we've all faced, especially us who have had political awakenings. There's a hunger for it now. And so now I think we should actually trust that people probably will. People told us with Right Brain TV, like, just make a Patreon, just make this, just make that. No one's going to do these extra steps. You'd actually be surprised. We don't give people enough credit. We let them convince us that that Americans are just these stupefied, zombified. There are those, but if that's the case, why have so many people waking up to the Gaza situation? I think the numbers lie. I think it's like 80%. I think it is a massive, in adults, maybe. I really think the amount of pro-Israel Zionists that they either completely brainwashed or are just benefiting from the genocide and don't care is much smaller than social media is having us believe. And I think that, you know what I mean? So we should probably give our population more credit. I never thought in my lifetime I'd see people opening their eyes to Israel the way that we were in 2016. Everybody, my mother was not very political before. Like, I think in that way, we should also give our audience enough credit to believe that they would be able to, click one link or look one thing up and join a network. I mean, 5-6 creators being able to jump site to site. I just don't see what Instagram what YouTube would really offer, except, having it there as another point of access. But I guess what I'm saying is there's people who have much bigger platforms than us that, I think it's consider us a warning because you have a bigger platform than us. It is much more vital than what we're doing. And I'm giving thus people a compliment. I mean, even people like you, people like RBN, these are big platforms. I mean, I think that I would like to see you guys safeguarded, maybe more than us, because again, our work is important, but we want you to watch some of the cinema, hopefully radicalize some people, but have you also go out into the world, not just zombify all day. But we don't do breaking news, right? Like when you're talking about someone wanted to buy your channel, the only reason we haven't bought your channel is it's just not the kind of stuff we do. We were going to buy a channel, you'd be top of the list. But I know some of these boutique streaming sites, and what's interesting to me is like I think their idea is like I'm going to buy up all these content from all these channels, the left channels, and that way if YouTube ever goes down, like I will be the stalwart. I will be like this vast YouTube replacement that's going to have all those dangerous channels. The problem is, channels like yours, like they're not picking channels that I think ever are going to get nuked. I think they're very safe lefty channels that nobody fears whatsoever. That's why you never hear of these kind of channels getting restrictions or getting taken down or getting nuked, right? Yeah. Hassan just really gets in. These other channels don't get nuked. These I don't want to pick on like Luna and these people. Like, when do you ever hear about them really being censored? I don't think that fears them at all. I think if anything, they're like, oh, this is this is it. Okay, sure. That's why they never have any problem getting mass traction, and they're super algo friendly. If you're not getting restricted at all, you're not doing this shit right. If you're on stage at Cannes, not to pick on Boost Riley, who did actually respond to one of our tweets, which shocked me, but bitch, you're lying. You did trash Hamas. Fuck you, Boost Riley. You're a liar. But anyway, he really did respond to our tweet. But if he's on stage at Cannes, he's probably not very dangerous to Hollywood or the Empire, because all of that stuff is completely co-opted at this point. And surprise, surprise, some of this stuff was like being handled and deals being done with Zionist entities. Same with A24. If you're seeing anything on the world stage in any of these entertainment platforms or places or being very algo friendly, then they're not dangerous to the Empire. That's the point. If they were, they'd be getting nuked.
Yeah. Let me show you this because you were talking about people's opinions. I want to share this with you. So this is actually from the AP. This is clip from the AP. It says percent of who say U.S. is blank in its support for the following. It's either too supportive, about right, not supportive enough, or don't know or skip. So people who say the United States is too supportive in its following of the Israelis, and U.S. adults, 40% it says is too supportive. And so this is just from the AP. We know the AP is really going to be, an empire rag.
Right. So if it's this bad, just imagine how bad it really is, right? Like if this empire rag is saying this, even admitting this, it's got to be way worse than this, right?
Yes. Yeah. And then it says people who the United States is too supportive of Democrats. The Israelis say 58%.
Do you ever think you'd see it? Did you ever think in your lifetime you'd see this? Pre-10/7.
I think it kind of reminds me of that. I don't know if it was Marx or Lenin who said there are weeks where days happen and there are days when weeks happen. I think I'm probably destroying the quote.
I think I get it.
But this is one of those moments where a lot of events happen in a very short period of time. And so things is more fast moving. And so, yeah, I mean, too supportive of the Israelis, 58%. They think the Democrats are too supportive of the Israeli. Under Democrats, it says the United States is too supportive of Israelis. Independents, 38% says the United States is too supportive of Israelis. And then even 21% of Republicans say the United States is too supportive of Israelis. But when it says too supportive of Palestinians, it's only 18%. 39% that the United States is not supportive enough to the Palestinians among all U.S. adults.
I think this is a litmus test. I think that when a baby blows up in front of you in a video, I don't care if you're bought off like Piers Morgan. There's a human who sees a baby blow up and just like, there's just money. I'm not saying him like he's not. I'm just saying using an example, right? There's some people we're seeing in the media calling it out that I actually think are earnest. I think that a baby blowing up is just mind blowing to them. Even some of the sellouts that have turned face. I don't think all of them are grifters. I think actually we're humans, and a baby blowing up is not something the average person, even some of these kind of people, see. I don't think any of us have seen. I've never seen a baby blow up. Some of the stuff I've seen from Israel in the last 3 years constantly is stuff, even with right brain, I've never seen before. Yeah. Images of a guy holding up a head. Like these are things that a human should never see in their lifetime, let alone in person. I think we are seeing a litmus test of who has not completely been conditioned and lost their humanity. What they've wanted is to dehumanize Palestinians, Arabs, anyone's an enemy to the empire through slow conditioning of media throughout our lifetime, starting us at a young age. And we're seeing who it actually worked on and who still has that shred of humanity left. And I just hate to be a bummer, but once you've lost that, I mean, it's done, right? You might as well give it all. I mean, that's it, right? That's why you're here. And that.
One thing I'm heartened by that actually makes me feel so good is seeing a lot of Jewish people reject Zionism and reject the empire, whether it's, reject what the imperialists are trying to do with using Israel as a tool to expand their empire or using the US to expand their empire. I'm glad to be seeing that, but I am disappointed in all the Christian Zionists that are completely turning on what they believe in order to push forth this genocidal type of regime just so that they can bring about the end times. And as a former evangelical, I look at them and I say, you are the Antichrist that you have been warning about. And
you can't just throw that out there. Former evangelical?
I was an evangelical for almost 20 years.
Dude, how has this never been broached? It makes so much sense. You're not the first person I've met, though, who has switched over to social commentating and doing news and commentary from a unique perspective that comes from that background. That's really interesting. Yeah. Still have we'll go back. Do you still have faith, though?
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have faith?
I have faith in humanity. I have faith in humanity, and a lot of times, people. One of my biggest things that I try to think about is whenever we talk about the isms, right? Capitalism, socialism, communism, fascism, blah blah blah. A lot of people will say, "Well, humans are inherently selfish," but I go, "Yeah, but humans are also inherently compassionate." See, there's a duality, there's a contradiction. The problem I think a lot of people don't that they don't face is that why are we allowing a system that is conducive, that exacerbates the very grotesques of our nature in order to exist? If you know that somebody has a propensity to either be very good or very bad, why don't you take something that dampens the very bad and promotes the very good? Why don't we have a system for that? But the problem is everybody has already said, oh, well, the bad system wins, I guess. And then we just got to roll with the punches. When in reality, it's like, well, wait, why don't we just dampen or put something that hinders the bad and then promotes the good? Why don't we just change that system? But a lot of times people just accept whatever's being fed to them instead of saying, well, we can change it, because they're listening to the other people who are greedy and selfish and exploitative and going, well, we can't. This is why the quote is that it is easier for a man to imagine the end of the world than to imagine the end of capitalism, because they've been I'm sorry, that is a more neutral word. They've been brainwashed into thinking that, well, you know what, that's just the way things are. Or they'll say, life's not fair. But my question when somebody says life's not fair, then why don't we make it fair? It's like when they say, the arc of the universe is long and it bends towards justice, but who does the bending? Because the thing is, that's one of my biggest issues. Is like people just they cede power to people who actually don't have their best interests at heart. And then they'll go, well, they have to be our leader. And I'm like, why do you think, like, how did humans survive this long? Was it because we absolutely had a leader this entire time? Or was it that we actually operated in a collective fashion because humans, by our very nature, are a communal species? Why don't we go back to the communal species that we have always been? And this actually brings me to a poll that I recently saw that I think that you will also find interesting and pretty inspiring. So this actually shows a net favorability. This is from Politics Numbers. So this is out of Cato. This came out on the 26th. It says net favorability among ratings among Gen Z. Socialism got 53%, 45% for capitalism, and 38% for communism. So anything anti-capitalist, you're looking at 53% and then 38%. You put that together, that's basically the whole chunk. Most people who are Gen Z are actually turning on capitalism.
I mean, I think capitalism is which is America's real religion. They'll tell you it's Islam, it's Sharia law, it's capitalism, and it's this. I mean, we're all just one giant molecular ball experiencing from different vantage points, but they don't want you to think that, and they want us to live in this. They want us to be individuals, but as individuals, we're actually weak and pathetic. Human beings as one mosaic that we're each a speck on, creating a larger picture that's working together in synchronicity is a beautiful thing. But what they want us to do is essentially be one giant molecular being attacking itself from different vantage points, fighting each other for that. That's what capitalism promises, competition, but really it's individuality, because as individuals, we're weak. And they can stomp us out very easily because we fight, we argue, and we're scattered, and we're all fighting for that one lottery ticket. Whereas you have a community like China, and you think of the book Leviathan, where it's a bunch of tiny, small people make up one large being moving in one direction. Not that they're all the same journey, but they're all moving to make their society a better place. It's interesting, too, with capitalism, because I come back to Lincoln, who's like one of the most beloved presidents, and I wonder what he would think. There's one quote by Lincoln. I'm not like saying, some testament to everything Lincoln did. I'm saying there's one quote by him I really love. It's very simple, but I think it's at the root of what you were saying earlier, which is what it made me think of, which is, I'm going to butcher it, but we're not enemies, but friends. The passion may have strains, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic chords of memory, something, surely the better angel of our nature. I butchered the ending of it, but I'm saying it's such a simple concept, but if we could just get to that point. I mean, what I see a lot is like, and I used to be guilty of this, and I'm not like some role model, but I would say one thing I've learned, especially in the last few years, is I used to be the guy that was overly critiquing every move everybody was making, especially on the same side as me. What I started realizing is if I spent that time just trying to make myself better and improve myself, and if I do see something in somebody, reflect it in my own nature and say, well, I don't want to do that. And you'll actually start to attract more people, and also different kinds of people that you might have repelled as you wagged your finger. And I think just start to accept people as they are and try to find the good in which you guys can work together, where there's an opportunity to build a bridge instead of trying to police them or have some long list. I think at this point with Right Brain, we have really gotten to the point now where we are literally ready to work with anybody, including the Libertarian Gun Club, if it was for a common cause in one screening. If we have one screening to raise money for Gaza, they have a space, we have the movies, they have a big club, and we're raising money for Palestine, I would absolutely work with them. Even people we have, I would say, not gotten along with very well, including other boutique streaming sites that we don't think treat us very well. If they call me tomorrow and said they wanted to get together to raise money for Gaza or for a union, we would do it. If we started to focus more on what our common denominator was instead of, lowest common denominator, we actually might achieve something. But if some people just want to have the same permit parade every week with the same faces, because I think they don't realize it's more of a social thing. It's more about their individuality. Either they are part of a system, whether it's DSA or otherwise, they're not ready to let go, where they have some sense of power, and maybe it's the only part of their life where they have power. Or on the other end, they don't realize it's more of a social gathering and a way of feeling less alone. Both come back to identity and the self. But if they really start to think about the world and my friends being blown up in Gaza, they probably put aside some of this bickering over podcasts and things people said years ago that you didn't like, and focus on, I don't know, saving my friends' lives who are being blown up and having their children blown up. But I have to tell my friend sometimes, why can't they I have a friend of my brain, it's like, why can't you guys just get it together and, stop them from blowing up my high school and my city block I grew up on and all my memories? And I don't even want to tell them the truth, because it would be horrifying to tell them it's because of something someone said on a podcast, or because this person doesn't agree with them on some wedge issue completely unrelated to them blowing up your family. I think that we're going to have to start opening our net and lowering the expectation of everyone you work with not being in what your eyes is this idealized person, and question, are you even that person that you're projecting outward on others? Or is your overly finger wagging, critical, always worrying about what everyone else is doing, really a projection and reflection of how you feel about yourself, and a yearning in yourself to be doing more than you're doing? And you can't face yourself. It's so much easier to manifest that on somebody else, because looking in the mirror, that's why they say looking on mirror on LSD is a very difficult thing for many people to do. You just take a heroic dose of psychedelics and stare in the mirror right into your own soul, right through the vacant holes in your eyes. And if our eyes are nothing more than windows in which we project outward everything we felt, experienced, and have seen, all we touch and all we've seen. If you look in the mirror and you look back through those windows into your own soul, for some people that's like very difficult. It's very difficult to stare into their own soul. I think that it's much easier to say, I'm just picking someone random. I'm not saying, say, Jackson Hinkle hasn't said things that have been problematic, but so have I. I just wasn't on Instagram. Like, I was not blowing up when I was in my 20s. I lived in rural Pennsylvania, where, say the word, it was, when I was 12, this is pre-internet. It's pre-cell phones. It was very common. It wasn't right. But even in 18, I knew people that were still saying it. And a lot of those people now would never in a million years say it. And they have a family and they live a really damn good life. I have a lot of soul of the earth friends that have really about face. If we were to judge them at 18, 19, because everything they did, every move they did, I grew up in a different generation. What I'm saying is, I think that we should start focusing on how we can get together. It's like you want to come up with every reason possible to stop some kind of a mass movement. Why? And I think part of it is some of these people, I think, are banking on the fact that there is no revolution. Like the Kyle Kalinskis of the world. You think he wants a revolution? That guy would have to work for a living. You know what I mean? Like, that guy would actually have to work a job if there was a communist revolution. He wouldn't be making 5 times, 20 times what my mom makes, who saves lives at Temple Hospital every night, to sit online and whine and talk about Bernie Sanders. He makes
Mhm.
10 times more than a nurse does. Who sticks, jabs Narcan that night while he was, whining and doing, super chats. She was jamming Narcan, my mom, into somebody and saving their child who would just overdose on heroin or a gunshot victim.
Yeah.
And they make like 1/50th of what like Crystal Ball in a communist revolution that wouldn't fly anymore. You wouldn't be making that kind of money. You'd be living a much more, you'd be looking for other things in life. But you wouldn't be living in the mansion, just sitting on the internet all the time. It'd be a much more balanced, much more fair playing field. So those people that you hear and see, they don't want a revolution. That's why as soon as a third party like Jill Stein came about, they were telling you every reason not to vote for him. They just want to like edge you to revolution. That's how they make their money, right? They want to get you. But then when the Democrats come around, they will stifle it again. I think you'll find you have a lot more in common with your neighbor who says all the wrong things that you thought you hated your whole life because maybe they are ignorant. You probably have more in common with them than you do with Kyle Kalinske. They probably may or do not have health care. They maybe don't have a living wage. They may be one tragic thing away from bankruptcy. You already have more in common with them.
Yeah. The thing, is, and this is not necessarily a pushback, but a lot of people who are marginalized, they find it very hard to, with people who know better, that they continue to espouse bigotry in order to make it seem like they find solidarity with others. And so that is one of the biggest issues I think some people have, is that some people who know better, and then they actually tell them what better is, they call them in instead of calling them out, but yet they still get rejected for calling them in. And so I think that is part of some of the divide. And some of the divide is it really division, or is it really setting a standard or a red line because it's marginalizing or separating the working class versus uniting the working class? And that's a bit of a tricky thing. And hurting the left is like hurting cats. And so that's what makes it difficult, is that there's infiltrators everywhere. And it's like you will look and somebody may seem like they're doing the right thing and they'll say a lot of the right things, but then it's like something doesn't seem right. Or then sometimes people will say it seem like everything is right with them, but then they also could be problematic, but we just don't know it yet. So at the same time,
but we've tried that cautious approach. It's an utter failure. We've done it the way you're talking about. That's how we've always been doing it. And the left is a fucking embarrassment. It is a shameful, in my opinion, the American left is an embarrassment. It is. We have a genocide going on. We are funding, and even me, I'm a part of it too. I'm talking about myself here. What I'm saying is I was the same way until maybe 6-8 months ago. The more I started talking to people in Palestine, and I always urge my friends to, like, I'm not saying you, I'm saying other friends I have, I'm like, you should have my friend Mohammed on. I think that, how do we say erase that kind of ignorance? I don't truly believe that in some of these people it's permanently embedded. I think that the way that I've seen people, I've met people who have watched our stuff and have really opened their mind up that, I mean, anyone's allowed to buy a Right Brain membership, but I've actually had people email me over the years, and I'm not making this up, and say that, like, they've really changed a lot in just watching a film. What would happen if, instead of immediately going to fighter mode, we actually just start to push back on it, but say, look, like is there another way where it doesn't need to develop into another X feud where people have to pick sides, where it can become something more like, look, we agree on so many things, like, why maybe jump on a show together, right? Instead of a debate, see who wins. Like, we always see these like debates. Maybe it's like, maybe they just haven't met someone that can give them that perspective. I'm not saying it's your job. I'm saying to mobilize, we're going to need to break ignorance. How do you break ignorance? It's not, walking by your neighbor and saying, fuck you. I understand the whole, like, but I also think people are using the word fascist wrong like 90% of the time. Yeah, don't work with a fascist. But most people don't realize they don't actually know that many fascists. Fascists are people who believe that the corporations run the government instead of in a place like it's a corporate-led country. It's like what Nazi Germany was, which was run by industrialists and weapons manufacturers. Hitler was backed by major banks. It is not the guy on X who said something he didn't like and has probably added touch on issues, whether it's LGBT or other things. That's not what a fascist is. Just not what that word means. Most people we know are not actual fascists because we already live under fascism. If they were fascists, why are they even over here with us in the first place? We have why would they be trying to launch, say, a party and be fascist when there already is a powerful fascist party they're never going to replace? People tell me, like, oh, but these people are just undercover and they're like going to reveal themselves to be fascists. So they're going to replace fascism with less powerful, less financed fascism. What I'm saying is, I think we should hit that stuff head on, but not in a, like, let me win the debate. And you got to admit, a lot of these people that get in these kind of tiffs, it's not about either side opening or broadening the horizons of some bigotry that's coming out of someone who has like 80% of shit right and a massive reach. It could be very powerful force on, working together, but has some off issues. We see people also falling into the trap to also give some pushback of the individualist mind state, even subconsciously. It becomes a fight, a duel. So I can absorb some of their audience, and whoever wins and gets the ratio on X wins the fight. But that's not really changing anything. What about an actual getting together and organizing and saying, I think you're wrong about these kind of people. Let's organize together. And I think you'll start to see that. And I've actually seen that kind of thing shatter ignorance. I've seen somebody I met with an activist recently who said that he organized by chance. He had he did something organizing, and someone ended up being there who I think had some very big. He actually told me it was the first, and I'm from Salt of the Earth, rural PA. He had never met Latin American before in his life. This was a late trailer trash type, and he actually told this guy that he had some awful views, and he was wrong. I'm not saying it's always gonna be that picture perfect, the hallmark, but I'm saying it might be a step in the right direction. This guy said to me, I think the best way to fight it is just head on. Let's just get out there in the field together, and we'll see. Because what I've noticed is when you get offline, people act a lot different. As humans, when we're in person, we have this intuitive, empathetic nature that I think more often than not is going to be very different. Just like you see, like DSA and some other people feuding, and I go to the May Day thing in Philly, and they're all together. No one's fighting.
Yeah.
Internet.
Well, that's actually a point I was going to make. Is that this is mainly an online issue that I see.
It is.
When it comes to, but this also calls to people being on the ground and actually doing the work instead of just being online chronically.
I agree.
And I think that's one of the biggest issues. And this is why, for instance, I try to make sure to get on the ground whenever I can, even though I have a job now and I don't have time like I used to. I have to make that time, right? And one of my comrades, Savvy Sav, she's actually doing a mutual aid workshop. She tries to do it once a month to help people be inspired to actually get out in the streets.
Yeah, I've been seeing her doing more of that kind of stuff, Savvy. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And so, I think that we need to touch grass. That's basically it.
Dude,
touch grass.
And you're absolutely
both forms if you need to, but
no, because every time me and Mark go out, it's so hard. You can come up with a million reasons not to go out, especially with what we do. It's an online stream site. We're like, let's go out. Let's go see a musician and try to get his work on the site. Let's go to a screening and try to find it. Like whenever we adventure out, especially when we don't know exactly what's going to happen, we never regret it. And we always come home that night like, dude, we should go out more. There's so many reasons, especially under the Empire, and they want that to happen. Somebody recently organized, they hit me up and they said, we want to start doing monthly screenings. It's in New York, though. I said, I mean, we're not going to be able to make New York, but we'll come to the first one because you got to be in person for that first one. We have not been in person in a screening since we went to that film festival with Rome. So with how Shadowband we are, we have no idea what our following is. When we were driving down all the way to New York, we were like, look, if 6 people go and we finally get to meet this guy we've been talking to online all this time, that would be great. 6 people coming out to watch Cuban cinema on a Sunday in New York, where there's probably I think it was Memorial Day weekend. So there was like a lot of competition. Dude, it was sold out. It was like last month. We had no idea. I actually had somebody walk up and say, is this the Right Brain show? My mind was blown. And I realized the power, too, of those 50 people crowded in that room watching Cuban cinema with what's going on right now. And there were Cuban people there, Cuban Americans there. There was people from Colombia. Somebody called in from Cuba. That coming together for the over the language of cinema, which is a very universal language. I mean, no matter how many streaming or live events we do, I mean, the multi-city one or like the Cuban embassy, it cannot touch what that felt like. And that applies to all things. I think we all need to be getting out more. And I think that the internet should be used instead of it's sort of become like a weapon, but used against each other. It should really only be used, I think, to spread reach and expand reach to those in which you cannot reach on grass, to mobilize in person. But if you can reach in person, I mean, I think we all need to be. But that's kind of what I mean with YouTube too, though. Is I think that's still part of the sort of untethering from these sort of town squares. They want us all in these hubs where they can keep an eye on us, right? Like I think going deeper underground is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, and this actually still goes into why we should keep our eyes, because we already know that this system is going to try to censor us, but we also need to have contingency plans in place, for when it happens, not if, for when it happens. And I think this is one of the reasons why it's so, like, for those of you who are tuning in about, what happened with Right Brain Studios and them being censored by the social media giants, the tech giants, I think it's important that we realize that we expect when it happens and don't fall and I'm talking to other people, not you, but I mean, don't fall into a slump and go, oh man, they took them away. What else can we do? It's like, no, okay, they actually did this. We planned for this. Now it's time to go into plan B. It's time to go into the next step. And so use it as your fuel to go, okay, they're doing exactly what we expected. This is right on time. Now we can go and do this next thing. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that what you're trying to do. And first of all, I want to give you your flowers, you and Mark your flowers for doing this because I appreciate it. Because it is important for us to try to keep pushing the truth out there despite whatever is going on. It's like the zines that people during revolutionary times pass out in secret, right? In order to communicate that, hey, you're not crazy. This system is designed to mess us all up. And so here's what
I appreciate that. But I want to say we're only going to go harder if the Zionists thought this was going to work. It's only going to get worse for you. I'll tell you this. If you nuke us, if we end up getting nuked on all social media platforms, we don't really give a fuck. I mean, it would suck, but at the end of the day, right, we'll just, touching grass is, I think, what me and Mark said would be the first thing we're going to do if our social media is all getting nuked. We're just going to go out. I mean, we will not stop until we're dead. I mean, we're not going to stop no matter what. And we're only going to go harder. And it's funny because Zionists, it just always blows up in their face. The craziest part is we get nuked. And then we get silenced for a week. So we just can't post. No one knows what's going on with us. Second stream coming back, we did 2,000 viewers in one night. We were at like 100 before. You guys actually we have no Instagram to promote these anymore. We have an X we're not even able to use. And our second night back, it went up. It was nearly 10 times what it was before. And then the last one, the one after, it was 1,900 in one night. Those are not normal X numbers for us. So either there was a massive thaw happening, as we call it, or it had the opposite effect. And people were like, what happened to them? And it just honestly developed more word of mouth. And I think that, again, I'm starting to realize we might have and should stop underestimating the public, the Americans. I think that they are waking up. They are becoming more perceptive. And I think we need to give them more credit and stop and not think, oh, they can only do things that are right in front of them and they won't have the effort to click and explore. Because, I mean, it'd be, nuking us on all platforms and only having one X account and them now all seeking out our streams and it definitely going up 10 times what it was before shows that there are people that actually are putting the effort in now. And I think we'll all be a lot better off if we stop underestimating our fellow, Americans, people, humans in general, stop underestimating them, and also maybe stop judging them so harshly all the time. I really think we should start holding the mirror up to ourselves. I think if we all do that, including those in which we feel that way about, we're all going to be a lot better off. I am just focused now on how can we make Right Brain TV better. And if we do not like certain things we're seeing is, for example, I was in a group with people and it wasn't talking about us, but it was about how it was someone who was from a country in Africa and they were saying, I don't really like, it was a film project we were working on. It was like an organized thing we were going to do with multiple collectives. And one of them was from Africa. And they mentioned about somebody unrelated to us, how they didn't like how Americans kind of fetishize the revolution. They'll be posting Juche DPRK women, but there's almost this kind of they're more focused on that than what the revolutions were fighting for, their culture, their music, their art, important parts of their, about their history. It's always just about guerrillas with machine guns. There's a fetish because Americans we know are not going to go out there and do that. So they vicariously live through it. Certainly we see it. I know that's a lot of the popular stuff we used to play. That was the first thing we always look up when we found a country. That's the last thing we look up now. It's an important part, but we started thinking, I don't like that. And realizing we were doing it. We recognized that we didn't like it, but didn't realize there was a part of us that was afraid to face the fact that we were guilty of it ourselves. If you look at some of our early TV guides, you'll see a lot of that. Zapatista's right on the front cover. There's still a little bit of that, certainly. But I'm saying it made us more aware and cognitive of our own behavior instead of saying, well, who else do we know that's doing that? It's we should stop doing that. And I think when we stopped focusing, for instance, when we did Africa Rising after that, it was perfect timing. Instead of just focusing on, all the, Sankara is strictly the revolution, it was well, what do you do for the film industry? What about music? What about, Sudan surrealist cinema? And instead of trying to project outward what I want these countries to be or what their identity is, we'll start to actually dig into what it really is in front of you. And that goes with film too. It's hard to meet an American these days that doesn't read a film by projecting themselves onto the film. You always hear people say oh, I don't like this movie. I can't connect with the main character. To me, that's the worst way to read a film, and that's what Brecht was against. Like, you should. Does that mean like you can only connect with a Palestinian if you know what it's like to have somebody blown up? I mean, that's not how we read life. It's how we should read cinema. You shouldn't need to connect with the character. What if the main character is poor and homeless and you're not poor and homeless? Do we need to come up with narrative tricks to get you to identify with them, or have we just lost all empathy that you can't connect with them? I think that we also, the other thing I noticed is I was victimizing people. Like, we need to stop looking at people who are oppressed as victims. They're warriors. They're powerful. Start looking people in the eye instead of feeling like you need to save them. Palestinians are not victims. They're being oppressed, but they are some of the most powerful people I've ever met. They're being victimized, but their identity is not a victim. I think that we should really, and these are things I think I would say I'm guilty of, we were guilty of, and I think we started to become more cognitive of it. So that's why I think it's self-reflection will make people start to see that we are all really one, I would say, connected blob of molecules that even the human eye has gotten so bad at perception over the years, and you de-evolved so we can work a 9-to-5 job. If we really saw the world as it was, which is a moving ball of molecules, we wouldn't be able to work. So we've evolved and evolved. You have to work, you have to eat. So I feel like this third eye, this ability to see more than what's there has gotten so, we are seeing the most bare basic kind of like 8% of what's really happening, and we can't see. We're all, me, there's not just me and JB. Me and JB are one being connected by molecules, experiencing this world through different vantage points. So they want us to fight each other and rule over it. But if we were all working in the same direction and focus on common goals, I really think the world will be a better place.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Everybody, here is Right Brain TV, their website here.
Yo, can I just plug that we just dropped 5 collections for members, over 60 films last night? And I'm a little bit proud because I now make the artwork for our banners. But if you could scroll down, I'd love to show them what we just dropped. If you're a member, this is behind the paywall. But these 5 collections I've been very excited about for a while. If you keep going, I mean, you'll see them there. But I want to show, it'll be the row after our originals. So these are older films that we've restored and archived right here. These first 5 collections you'll see, I'm super excited about. The Kamikaze Career. I don't love Japan's probably the most sanitized country when it comes to America, and just as far as cinema goes, they've brought so much cinema to America. It's not hard to find Japanese cinema, but the Crash and Burn collection is unique because that filmmaker kind of this high octane wild. He was in a punk band and he was only going to film school to use their equipment. And this corporation, one of the biggest film studios in Japan, saw him as a prodigy when he was still in school. School kicked him out because they realized he was just using the equipment and never planned to graduate, and thus began his career. But he wasn't a prodigy. He was sort of a very radical filmmaker that didn't play by the rules. And though he kind of crashed and burned in a kamikaze way, his films are really something special. The Tale of Two Jiris, which is, if you go back to the left, if you click to the left, we just dropped The Tale of Two Jiris. Jiri Trunka on the left is sort of the Walt Disney of the Czech Republic post-war puppeteer animation, which is popular there. Instead of Disney movies, they love puppeteers. On the right, you have Jiri Barta, who came about 50 years later and is sort of a much more modern, nightmarish filmmaker. So you have The Tale of Two Jiris. These are 2 of the biggest Czech animators, polar opposites separated by 50 years. And then if you go to the left again, you have the Soviet Women of Cinema. I'm super psyched about this. These are the pioneer female filmmakers from the Soviet Union, where unlike America, where we're just starting to see more female cinematographers, they've always had a lot of female filmmakers, which leads you into, if you go to the left one more, what I'm also excited about. Before The Sopranos showed you what, HBO showed you what you could do with episodic TV in the 70s, the Soviet Union was already thinking that way. This woman directed a 12-episode movie, essentially. It's a series. It is based on a Soviet crime novel. It's a pretty dope premise. It's about a spy. It's a Soviet spy in World War II, undercover as a Nazi, trying to sabotage a secret agreement between the West and the Nazi Party for global domination. I'm super stoked about that. 17 Moments of Spring. If you go to the left, one more. There's one last one. It's Paul Morrissey. We did The Rise and Fall of Andy Warhol last month. We did a whole diatribe on him. We assassinated his character. He's a creep. He's been protected by corporations for too long. But the man behind all his movies, even though it had his name slapped on him like everything else in the factory, is Paul Morrissey. He directed all the good films that came out of the factory with Warhol's name on them. It was a deal with the devil. He knew his name couldn't get the money he needed, and he loved cinema. Warhol had no cinema talent, but loved making any kind of medium to push his image. When he didn't get in Morrissey's way, the movies were good. When he did and his ego got in the way, they were awful. But Paul Morrissey is a phenomenal filmmaker. And when he dumped Andy Warhol and exposed him, Andy Warhol couldn't even come. Andy Warhol usually went after anyone that exposed him later, all the people he left behind and used, exploited, and stole from. But he didn't do that to Paul Morrissey because he knew he was a G and he knew he was a very good filmmaker and he had nothing to say. But in the 80s, Morrissey left the factory and he went out into the streets of New York before Giuliani, destroyed it. And the gritty New York became his soundstage. And he made like 6 phenomenal films. He shot in the Alphabet, some of the, using people right off the street in underserved communities, dealers, pushers, in the Italian communities. And he created these 6 campy, amazing films. You could see what he was like without Warhol sort of in control. So these are 5 collections. We just dropped these last night, just 5. We have over 1,000 movies on the site now. We've come a long way. And right now we are running a flash sale. It is $30 for 12 months of exclusive underground access. We are the cheapest streaming site. Support the only underground anti-imperialist streaming site. Join the movement. We're not just a streaming site. We are a movement. We do in-person screenings. We do virtual screenings. We're going to be doing road shows more. We are more of a family, a community, and for just $30. And I'm going to give you a life hack that actually costs us money. Get 3 friends and throw $10 up each and share the account. We don't care if you share your account. We encourage you to share your account. Now on Netflix, only like 2 people in a household can have an account. Dude, get 5 friends. They're $6 up each, and I'll share it. I just want people to be able to explore this content and money to not be in the way. And so, yeah. And year round, there's a flash sale. Year round, even when this flash sale ends in 2 weeks. So I would take advantage of it because the price will keep going up as cost goes up. We're normally $50. Now we're $30. But year-round, we have a new rule, and that is if you cancel Netflix or any of these Zionist-backed empire streaming sites and show us a screenshot, you can get the same discount. So unplug. BDS is not just what you consume, what you eat. It's what you feed your mind. Unplug from these genocide-supporting, vulture capitalist-run streaming sites.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on, Gavin, man. Look, whatever happens here, I'm anticipating more to come, but you're doing great work there at Right Brain and opening people's eyes to cinema. And hopefully we can get more of these contingencies in place for those of us in independent media so that just in case, if/when it happens, then we'll be ready for them.
It's mutual, and you were one of the only people early on that ever even let us get on your platform, and that was so crucial in those early stages when you're just screaming out into the void, right? So thank you so much, and thank you for all the incredible work you do. I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too.
All right, bye-bye. All right, folks, go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much to all of you. Appreciate it. We're going to go into the chats and have a discussion with you guys. But first, we're actually going to thank the patrons on Patreon so that we can make sure that people know that we appreciate them. So we're going to share the screen really quick here. And let's give a shout out to all the patrons on Patreon. So, of course, we have Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters. Then we have Jaybefaunters. Then Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. Thank you so very much to all new members. It is deeply appreciated from all of you. Of course, as far as me, of course, they took away my Venmo. They took away my PayPal. So I don't have those anymore, but I do have a Cash App in the link below if you guys would like to send something my way. Or if you guys like to, you guys can also become members of Patreon. There's also memberships as well as super chats. So that helps me out very much. So thank you very much there. Let's go ahead and take a look into the chats for the kick. And then we shall go into to see if we have any Rumble rants. If we don't have any there, then we shall move on into the regular YouTube chat. So we're good on kick. Let's go into to see if we have any Rumble rants. Let's see there. Looks like we're good on the Rumble side. Appreciate that. We do have comments there, so we'll be getting to those very shortly. And now let's go into the YouTube chats as well. So we're going to go here. So first off, we have Holly coming in saying hi, JB, checking in. Good to be checked on. Thank you so very much, Holly. Good to see you. All right. We also have Trav coming in saying Care Bear. Yes, Care Bear stare. All right. Thank you so very much. I know that looked weird. I looked that unsettling. My bad. All right, let's go into here. We have Edward saying, hey, JB, hope everything is well with you. Everything is well. I just had a recent addition to the family. I didn't have a baby, but my niece did. And I am so happy that we have a new little one in the family. So, and she is absolutely gorgeous. She is healthy, 10 fingers, 10 toes. Everything is working properly so far as we know. Fingers crossed for the next 6 months so that we, as they continue to get checkups, everything is just happy and boring. That's what we need, happy and boring. So thank you very much for that. We have Jacqueline coming in saying, hey, JB, hey, everyone, good to see you. Jacqueline coming in here, coming in hot, Jacqueline, from across the pond. All right, who else do we have in here? Let me see. We have Game.Film, friend to the channel, coming in saying censorship is getting out of control. It's been out of control for quite some time, but it has been kicked up a notch. It is basically censorship on steroids right now. Absolutely. Thank you so very much for that. We have Nihilo. Nihilo says, hey, guys. Hey, you guys. Thank you so very much. Roger Meadows, who is also a channel member, thank you so very much, says, tell Right Brain to get in contact with TAG, Taxpayers Against Genocide. Yeah, that's a great group to get in contact with. In fact, I need to have them on my channel. But they actually are doing great work trying to make sure to decouple the money that we send in this government, the money we give this government, or not really necessarily give, the money they take, and how they give it to Israel for the genocide. Well, we need to get in contact with them so that we learn how to decouple that so that Israel ain't getting no more of our coins. So thank you very much for that. And then let me see. Oh, that was interesting. We have Jace coming in saying 100% Kevin. Yes, absolutely. Let me see. Just making sure that I didn't miss anybody. Kime says, is right brain associated with ACP or am I mistaken? Genuine question. I think as far as like no more than right brain is associated with me. They have solidarity with many different people of thought throughout the left. So they're, right brain is just trying to do what they can in order to show solidarity with anybody who's outside of outside of capitalism. So they're, in neutral territory there. So thank you very much there. Let's continue on. We have Bryce coming in saying, thanks again, Kevin. Good afternoon, JB and comrades. Good to see you as well. All right. And we see we have a non-user saying BDS capitalism, pirate way is the best way. Except for Right Brain, because Right Brain's doing great work. Mary Ploppin says, love, great interview. We'll go back and watch the beginning. Thank you so very much. Conversations with Kevin is always really good because we really get deep. I need to just do like one full show, just like a long form conversation, kind of like a 3-hour one where we just chat. I don't know how well that's going to do on YouTube though, because, as far as watch time goes and things like that, because 3-hour chat will be very interesting, but I know we can definitely do a marathon. Kime said, hang on. Roger says, oh, I can call Seth right now from Tag. How do I connect you through Sergio? What? Oh, what what you can do, well, my email is in the bottom of all my videos, and so they can contact me through there. Or I can get his email and contact. Either way, that's the best way we can do it. Yeah. So thank you very much for that. Now, due to the sake of time, I am way over, but we're going to get into these other segments. We're going to make it kind of fast because there's a lot to get into, but we're going to get into the next segment here. So, of course, we had to talk to Kevin Ronca about being censored, and I hope people took that one to heart because we definitely need to have more of a discussion in regards to that. Next, we're going to be talking about how Disney is punishing students in Florida. So we're going to be getting into that right now. And Disney said, we don't care. I'm channeling my inner, oh my God, what's his name? Stephen A. I'm channeling my inner Stephen A. when he said, we don't care. That's how they feel. All right. The mouse doesn't care, Oh, boy. Okay. So Disney said that they don't care about them kids. They said, the heck with them kids. We don't care. Give us our money. And so I want to share this article that just recently came out because it really just ticked me off, right? And this is out of Orlando Weekly. So this is a local story, but this is a, multinational corporation. It says over 5,000 petitions call on Disney to drop property tax lawsuits that could drain money from Orange County schools. I live in Orange County. These are the schools within my area. I have kids in my family that go to Orange County schools. This is not right. It says the school district that is already in a financial crisis has been forced to close schools over declining enrollment and budget concerns. Let's go. So this, and I'll be showing some of the press conference in a little bit, but let's get into this. It says as the Orange County School District faces a financial crisis over declining student enrollment and an expanding state voucher system, workers at Disney World and educators are calling on the Walt Disney Company to drop lawsuits as filed over local property tax assessments, which could stand to siphon money from the local public school district. Members of Unite Here 737 and Local 362, two labor unions that collectively represent thousands of workers at Disney World, had knocked on over 67,000 doors in Orange County in recent months to raise awareness of the lawsuits, which they cheekily refer to as the cost of magic. Canvassers have collected more than 5,000 petitions from community members urging Disney to back down. According to Orange County Public Schools, one of the largest school districts in the nation, the school district has set aside $119 million for potential legal settlements should Disney and other plaintiffs who have sued over property taxes settle or win their court cases. And so this is from Clinton McCracken, who is president of the Orange County Classroom Teachers Association, said the district has cited that $119 million as a contributing factor to the district's decision to offer less than 1% raise for public school teachers this year. The district has since improved that proposal. So let me share this as well. Florida ranks 50th in the nation for average teacher pay, as many teachers say their colleagues are picking up second jobs just to make ends meet. I want to stop here for a second and share just how dystopian this really is. I think the phrase is used in South Korea, if I'm correct, but South Korea is not that great of an example because really they're just a U.S. vassal and their people are doing terribly too within the capitalist system. But I digress. They call their teachers nation builders. So teachers are there to help build the future of our nation. And if they are being exploited so much to the point where they have to have second and third jobs in addition to teaching. That means that their focus can't be on the kids 100% of the time. And if that's the case, well, then do we really care about our kids for real? Especially here in Florida. If you're a Floridian, do you actually care if your teacher has 100% devotion to their job and teaching our kids? Well, it's kind of hard to do that when you can't afford to be able to live. And I did the calculations, right? So in Florida, summer vacation is about 10 weeks, right? So you get from the beginning of June till about the first or second week of August. So that's about 10 weeks. Then you factor in another 2 weeks for winter vacation, right? So you got 10, that's 12. And then you get a week for spring break. That's 13. 13 weeks, basically, you know. Now, it's less than that if you're counting summer school. With that being said, if you factor that in, and then they share how much the average teacher makes. So just so that we show, they rank 50th in the nation. They have to get second jobs. Let me share how much they're making. Did I pass it? I know the amount, but I just want to make sure that everybody sees it. Yeah. So starting teacher pay in Orange County is $50,000, while school psychologist base pay begins at $58,000 according to district documents. $50,000 a year. That's about $25 an hour if you're working 8-hour shifts, 52 weeks a year, right? Give or take, if you take away between 10 and 13 of those weeks, it goes up to about $27 an hour. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition's Out of Reach report, you need to make $37.27 an hour. I should check on them to make sure that there was an update. There should be an update sometime this month where they actually put out the new Out of Reach report. Roger, if you're watching, then if you could see if there's a new version of the report for 2026, I did not get a chance to check, but I'm willing to bet that it's actually even worse now because the war in Iran is not making it any easier. That being said, when it comes to teacher pay, it is wholly inadequate in order to be able to live in this state. So teachers actually having to make more money by working a second and third job is not out of the realm of possibility. It's really more of a guarantee that you have to do that. And that's what's the hard part about it. These teachers, they have families, right? They have families, they have lives, and yet they have to work second and third jobs just to be able to keep their head above water, not also counting the student loan debt that they have to repay from having to go to school in order to become a teacher. So you factor that in, the price of gas, groceries, rent, mortgages, car payments, if they have a car payment, maintenance on cars. A lot of people don't talk about that. Insurance, both healthcare as well as auto insurance. All these different things that they have to do. Childcare. What if some of these teachers are parents of a young child that their child is too young to actually put into regular pre-K? Well, they actually have to pay for that childcare. And those childcare costs come into the thousands of dollars per month. All of this factored in, then that means that these teachers are basically being hung out to dry within this state. And so Disney's saying, oh, well, we don't want to pay this much in property tax. This is Disney perpetually saying, fuck them kids. We don't care. That's basically what they're saying. And so the biggest problem really is that schools should not be paid by property taxes. Look, as a student of trying to expand my horizons, especially within making things better for the working class, I listen. And one of the people who I listen to is my sister, Sabby Sab. She worked in higher ed, and she knows a lot about the education system. And one of the things she talks about is how schools are funded by property tax, unless it is a Department of Defense school or a DOD school, which they actually get paid everything through regular federal tax dollars. It's not based on property. So because it's based on property taxes, then Disney is like, you know what, we don't want to pay that much in property taxes, which lowers the amount. But this lawsuit is also costing the school district hundreds of millions of dollars in order to be able to afford this lawsuit. So guess what? That money is going to get siphoned off just to pay for this lawsuit because Disney doesn't want to pay more in taxes. But my question is, why in the world are we fighting over this when Disney is making hand over fist and money and they're underpaying their workers so much to the point where they're actually getting lawsuits on them for wage theft? Seems like greed to me. You literally have people who work at Disney who live in hotels and motels. They're living in their cars. They can't afford to even live. And then you want to say, oh, we don't want to pay more in property tax. That property tax, guess what? It's not actually going to go. That property tax savings is not going to go to the workers. Who some of these workers actually have kids within the district that they need them to go to school. And so a lot of these parents are looking and going, hey, like, how is our kids going to get taught properly? And this is also part of the feedback loop, because I actually talked about this when it came to charter schools a few weeks ago, how they're trying to put charter schools, and it should appear like here when I do the clip for the tag, so that you guys can see that I actually talked about how they are trying to justify the use of charter schools by degrading the school system just so that it goes, so that parents will make that decision and go, well, I want my kid to have a better education, and education, public education is not actually being funded enough. So I'm going to put them in charter school, which is basically going to be public education, but ran by private corporation. So it's that public-private partnership that is so dangerous that ultimately, you know, screws over us as citizens and workers. Because guess what? They will privatize the gains and socialize the losses. And then who's out there holding the poop on the stick? It's going to be us and the kids. And so I want to share this as well, because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. I stand with them on this. And this is from Fox News. They actually covered the press conference. And let's get into this, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more.
Where the Orange County Classroom Teachers Association is speaking right now. They're in a bargaining session today. There's going to be an impasse hearing over some contract terms. Again, a teachers union in Orange County. They're presenting petitions as well and calling on Disney to drop lawsuits over property taxes, saying that the money that's at issue there will do a lot for public schools in Orange County. And so let's go ahead and listen in live for a couple of minutes, live right now in Orlando.
They need the money. Disney has the right to file a lawsuit, but they don't have to. A company like Disney could also look around at the community where they are based and choose to respect our needs. Disney could look around Orange County, which their theme parks have called home for over 50 years, and where Disney presence has marked our infrastructure and economy and community. And they could decide that our public schools, our students, and our teachers need money more than they do. Disney could drop their lawsuits. They could settle their lawsuits right away and give money back. I think that they should. Our schools need that $119 million. Disney does not. So we started to knock on doors, talking to the community about it. I'm going to introduce Britt to explain what we found.
Hello, my name's Britt. I'm with Unite Here, Local 362. I'm one of the leaders on this campaign. So 4 months ago, we started to knock on doors across Orange County, informing people about Disney's lawsuits and asking people questions about the cost of living, the tourism industry, and how people feel about big corporations in our backyards. We've talked to thousands of parents, grandparents, workers, public school graduates, teachers, Disney employees, and their neighbors. And what we've learned is that people are angry. So this team here and more from the previous months have knocked on over 67,000 doors in Orange County this summer. We've held 4 town halls with a total attendance of over 650 people. And we have collected petition signatures face to face, one by one, from over 5,000 people. These petitions call on Disney to do better. They're asking them to drop their lawsuits and protect our public schools. A few weeks ago, the Orange County Public Schools Superintendent discussed the lawsuits, and she said that any money that is left over from the lawsuits can go to teachers' salaries. And that's great news. Our teachers need higher salaries. All we need is for Disney to come to the table so that we have the money for it. These petitions and our conversations reveal more than just a call on Disney to drop their lawsuits. They reveal how passionate our community is about supporting our public schools, and they reveal how angry people are that working people are struggling and our kids don't get enough, even though we are surrounded by a profitable tourism industry that is powered by our work. I'm proud to introduce 2 Disney workers who will speak about these lawsuits. First, I would like to welcome Thomas Nunez.
Hello, my name is Thomas Nunez. I work at Pop Century Resort. Also a member of Unite Here 737. This campaign, the reason why I came out for this campaign, I suffer from learning disabilities. And what bothers me is these kids are being jam-packed in all of these schools, which 7 of them closed, and I'm in District 8, Meadowwoods Elementary. They closed. I have talked to a 97-year-old grandma where she had to take in her grandkids because her daughter passed away. She had to take out her kids, her grandkids, out of school to be homeschooled because the kids don't get one-on-one. That bothers me. If I did not get one-on-ones with teachers, I wouldn't have been the only one in my high school, or in my family, sorry, to get a high school diploma. These kids deserve better.
So this basically just shows how, corporations really just are the worst. And ultimately, who's going to suffer? It's our kids. And the thing is, nobody within our governments are interested in decoupling property tax from paying for schools. I am of the same opinion that we should fund all public schools like Dodge schools, where they do not have to worry about funding whatsoever. And the schools that are in the most disenfranchised areas should receive money in an equitable way just to bring them up to the same level as the schools in more well-to-do or affluent areas. Because the problem is we can say, we'll start giving these schools, equal money across the board. But it's but at the same time, those schools will still stay at the bottom. Even though they go up, the other schools still go up. So no, you have to give equitably. For instance, if we're talking, for instance, in Orlando, Jones High School should get more money than Dr. Phillips or Olympia, right? People go, well, why should Jones get more? Well, because it's a more disenfranchised area. Jones High School is literally in one of the most economically disenfranchised area in Central Florida. So therefore, that means their kids are more underserved. So that means you need to give a little bit more for them in order to bump them up to where an Olympia High School or a Boone or Dr. Phillips is. And so I think, honestly, that we should be fully funding all public education just for, if you want to do it from a federal level, go ahead. And people are like, well, where are you going to get the money from? The billionaires. And here's the thing, right? That is like the temporary solution. Honestly, billionaires should not exist. 100 millionaires shouldn't exist. Nobody should be able to make an obscene amount of wealth off the backs of other people's labor without them having a democratic say and control over the companies. And it should be a one vote person, one vote in every single portion of a company. That being said, well, this is why the system has to be changed. And for me, it's part of it is about also making sure the teachers are well paid. Please do not come into my comments complaining about, oh my God, but these teachers, they make so much money. No, they don't. No, they don't. They don't make that much. And they're like, oh, well, it's just starting salary. Yeah, starting salary. But at the same time, when you start from that low, just to get to a living wage, you have to have how many years experience? And Florida's ranked 50th in the nation? Come on now. Come on. Nah, right? And so, and we, and people go, well, you live in a state with no income tax. Exactly. So if we live in a state with no income tax, then that money does not go to schools. And so when you have people like Donald Trump, Jeff Bezos, John Morgan, right? All these billionaires that live within our state. Yes, Jeff Bezos moved to Florida. We didn't want him here, but he's here. And you mean to tell me that we're not going to tax them? Where Elon Musk that owns SpaceX, he pretty much runs Cape Canaveral. He runs Titusville. That's like Elon Musk area. And you mean to tell me that they're not going to pay, force more property tax from SpaceX? They're not going to tax SpaceX more? Oh, because they got government contracts. So they're taking money from us in order to shoot rockets in the sky. So this is one of my points, right? Keep an eye out for what these companies do. Please don't be so quick to praise these corporations, right? Because the thing is, these corporations are literally making us more disenfranchised. And what's the solution? What? Put them in a charter school where it's operated by a private corporation that's going to be taking more money out of our schools? And then these private charter schools can now pick and choose which kids go in, meaning that a lot of kids that are in public school right now, it's going to be a two-tiered education system. And when you have a two-tiered education system, what does that mean? That means some kids are going to get served and some kids are not, which means you keep the system of exploitation going. And that is absolutely not right. So guys, please keep an eye on what's going on in your state and locally. And also, if there's ways that you can try to alleviate this in some temporary way, and by temporary way, I mean either ballot measures, or if you guys know of ways in which you guys can help the local community. For instance, Sabby will be doing a back-to-school mutual aid. She's going to be doing a mutual aid workshop later this month, and then she's also going to be doing back-to-school mutual aid. I'll be doing mutual aid and helping out along with Rio here in Orlando with their back-to-school mutual aid. I already made sure to schedule that day off so that I can be able to help out. But are you helping out your neighbors in order to help them so that their kids are set up for success in some way, shape, or form so that they don't have to worry as much? Start off small, but ultimately this just reinforces the reason why the system has to change, because literally the same corporation that talks about how much they love children and they want the best for children, they're screwing them over. Disney World is not the happiest place on earth. It's the greediest place on earth. All right, everybody, go ahead and please give a like to the stream. I don't know why the like is not coming up, but thank you very much. Okay. So let's get into the chat, and then we will move on to the next one. Let me put that article in the chat for you guys. All right. Jacqueline asks, when was your baby niece or nephew born? JB, she almost a birthday twin? She was born on Sunday on the 5th, so the day after the 4th of July. Yeah, essentially we have our birthdays are in the same week, which is pretty nice. Thank you very much for that question. Let me see here. Edward says the teachers are the lowest paid professionals. Without teachers, we would not have doctors, lawyers, accountants, etc. They should be paid double because teachers wear many hats. Yeah, they also play babysitter for some of us who, don't know how to give our kids home training. And I'm gonna tell you right now, a lot of teachers are complaining now that a lot of parents are just like not there for their kids. And part of it is also because their parents are being overworked. But some parents, they expect their kids to be coddled and, just push through. And it's like, no, you also have to provide that structure for your children in order for them to have a conducive environment so that they are learning. And also, a second thought came out with a good video last Friday, where they actually talked about basically talking about how younger generations, they can't read. Well, it's not that they can't read, it's that their reading comprehension and their speed and understanding is lower than the previous generation. That being said, part of it also does definitely fall on the school because they're not teaching phonics anymore. They're teaching a different type of reading method of teaching, right? Just like how they started going into Common Core math, and next thing you know, all of us millennials who are parents were like, what the heck is this? Math is math. They even made that into a joke in the movie The Incredibles. Since we're talking about Disney. And so, The Incredibles 2, I should say. And so I was like, well, math is math, right? But then they're like, oh, you have to do it this way. Like, come on now. But yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is a lot of parents are now, they're so overwhelmed with having to produce for the corporations that they're now, inadvertently neglecting their kids because in providing materially for their kids, the kids are losing out on other things that they should be getting from their parents as well. And also there's a distance between the parents and the rest of the community. So then it's like, okay, but the kids, who else are they in contact with? Well, they can't keep in contact with other people because, well, people don't trust their neighbors anymore. And plus, there's some people that are dangerous out there and some people that are weird out there, but also some neighbors don't trust other people with their kids, and some, neighbors, they don't trust their kids with the same parents that don't trust them. And so, yeah, it's just sad. And so there's no sense of community anymore. Those of you who are, who grew up black in the neighborhood, in the chat, y'all know how we grew up. You could not get in trouble near anyone from your neighborhood, because if you did, well, you had to answer to a lot of adults in the neighborhood before you even answer to your parents. And they may not put their hands on you, but guess what? You will get a tongue lashing though. Or if not, you'll get a good talking to. They will get your parents. Man, I'm telling you. Jace Hart says PragerU style education. Oh my God, don't get me started on PragerU. Absolutely horrible. Mary Ploppin says charter schools get way less state funding, but must still poison kids with GMO and pesticides in the food to get the funding. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, Roger. He says it ain't come out yet. I called the National Low Income Housing Coalition, but no answer. Got it. Thank you. True Sensei coming in saying 100%. Thank you so very much. A non-user said, yeah, school food sucks. They poisoned us. I'm against charter schools 100%, but normal schools need lots of help. Education be gutted. Yeah. The problem is like they do this, it's called death by 1,000 cuts, where they'll make a lot of cuts in order to justify taking kids out of public schools so that then they can put it in charter schools so that the corporations can make their money. That's ultimately what it's about. True Sensei says most police that I've seen get salaries from $100,000 to $300,000 per year. And most of the time, they're actually not in danger. They're just chilling. They'd be on their phones, flapping their gums. They're not really doing much. And they get so bored that sometimes they harass people like you and me for nothing burgers. You know what I mean? It's like, that's where our money's going. Mary Poppins said, we sent our kids to charter schools because they have more rounded, well-rounded education, didn't have cafeterias and did a lot of outdoors. But here's the problem, right? Why did you feel that way? It's because public education was defunded to the point where you felt that you had to. You know what I mean? Like, if public schools were more well-rounded, if they didn't have the almost prison-like cafeterias, and then they also did a lot of stuff outdoors for the kids, because if they taught kids the way they learn, would you have taken them out? The blame is not on the parents, right? Because the parents are just trying to look out for the best interest of their child, but they're being forced in that position by the big corporations, that own our politicians. I don't necessarily blame parents. I blame the corporations for this. And yes, True Sensei, I forgot about this, but yes, they also have to pay for their supplies. A lot of times people talk about, like, for instance, back in the day, remember those pizza parties that teachers would have? And then you would get that skinny slice of pizza. And then they wouldn't give you the big red Solo cups full of soda. They give you them little styrofoam cups that you have to keep, that you would only get like 2 sips out of. And you had to go up, and they would load that thing on with ice too, because they needed to stretch it. Why did they need to stretch it? Because they paid for it out of their own pockets, because they didn't have the money. So that's why they did it. Whereas if we actually had a school that actually was fully funded without having to be funded by property taxes, and if the teachers made decent money, a livable wage on top of it, and they didn't have to pay for all that, then guess what? It'd be a whole lot better. they'd probably be able to take us to Chuck E. Cheese and we actually get a full slice of pizza. You know what I'm saying? With French fries, you know. And yes, this is true, Roger. He says most billionaires don't make money off of labor exploitation, but through leeching off government system that allows them to exploit loopholes in the system like speculation in assets, making money off moving money around. That's also true, but also the shareholders also make money by also cutting the expenses so that they can make more money as well. You're referring to billionaires. I'm using the word billionaire more loosely. I'm also including like the big shareholders and things like that into it. It's just more semantics than anything. All right, so Jay says, I work at an elementary school and there are kids in kindergarten and occasionally in first grade who are not potty trained. These are not special needs kids. And this is part of the issue. Some parents are neglectful. It's true, right? Let's keep it a buck. At the same time, two things can be true at the same time. Some parents are neglectful and some parents don't have the time to really monitor their kids and train their kids properly. And the thing is, like, you have to have a kid that's potty trained by the time. Honestly, your kid needs to be potty trained by pre-K. If you don't have a kid that's potty trained by the age of 3 and they're not special needs, if you have time to do it, then you better make sure that gets done. Because teachers aren't there to change kids' diapers. No. They're there to monitor when they go to the bathroom. That's it. Outside of that, no. And so that's one thing I tell parents is like, no, you need to have your kid potty trained by the time they're 3. Really, by the time they're 2, they need to be potty trained. Like they need start potty train. The moment they can walk, you need to have them potty trained. At least starting the potty training and regular potty training. And there are so many people, school psychologists, pediatricians, who online who are really giving great advice in regards to this. And it's not just about doing the process 1 or 2 or 3 times. It's about consistency. And if you're able to do that consistently, then guess what? Your kid will pick it up like that. And guess what? Boom. You'll have them potty trained. You won't even have to worry about it. It's just like teaching your kids phonics and stuff like that. Like teaching your kids words and how to sound things out, flashcards. You got to realize you have a huge sponge on your hands and they're absorbing everything, all your good and bad habits. And so therefore, if you want them to be better, then you're going to have to do more for them than what was done for you. And it's not just paying for things financially. It's also your presence. It's also your patience. And it's also recognizing that they're not going to be well-rounded yet. You have to do the rounding. Some parents just don't do that. And it's hard to do that also with parents are being overly exploited. Roger says, check out my force to vote I made for Mamdani's choice picks. I DM'd you. I will be on Zoom with Dariliza Friday if I don't forget. Thank you very much for that. Okay, let's get on to. Let me get to. Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, you're talking about the National Low Income Housing. Okay. I got to find the link. Sorry. I don't have time right now, but I have to find the link. I'm sorry. Hopefully I'll be able to put it out there in a little bit. But we got to get to the next subject because I think I'm running very late. Yes, I am. Oh boy. All right. So let's get into the final segment here, guys. Thank you for so much for sticking around. I don't know why things are not popping up the way I need it to. Okay, I'm going to get out of here and come right back. Sorry, guys. Just give me 1 second. Okay. All right, guys. Let's get into this. Perfect. So, of course, we talked to Kevin Ronca with Right Brain about his censorship. And then we talked about how Disney basically said, the heck with them kids. And now we're going to be going into Iran mourns. This one is going to be big because I think, honestly, this is the one where I think a lot of people need to pay attention, especially the people who have, especially a lot of people who have been pushing away this narrative that, Iranians are some deeply oppressed people in a regime. Let's square this circle so that people will know exactly what's going on. So I'm going to share a lot of what I've seen, and I hope you guys get a lot out of it too. So we're going to be going into mourning. On February 28th of 2026, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was martyred. He was murdered by Israel and the United States while defending his country of Iran from United States and Israeli aggression. He was murdered along with his niece, his son-in-law, and his daughter. And in doing so, it caused outrage, especially among the Muslim world. And his funeral has been over the weekend. The mourning period is still going on. And I'm going to be honest with you. If you don't know who the Ayatollah is, especially Ayatollah Khamenei, you need to know that he is a very big deal. Now, people are like, well, how big of a deal is he? Because I've never heard of him until the Iran war. That's on purpose. I'm going to show you guys exactly why. There's something that I want you guys to see, and I'm going to show you this. This is going to be propaganda by the empire. And then I'm going to share with you guys the anti-imperialist perspective from an anti-imperialist journalist that's actually covering what's really going on the ground and not just in short clips and spreading brainwashing propaganda from the State Department. And you're going to know who the real Khamenei was by the end of this and why his mourning, the mourning of Ali Khamenei, is so much of a big deal. Let me share my screen here, and we shall get into it. So this is from NBC News. So this is imperialist brainwashing. Let's go.
Millions attended the funeral procession today for Iran's former supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, assassinated by the United States and Israel at the start of the war in February.
The body of the late supreme leader is right there on a truck being brought through the streets of this city. This is a show of mourning, but also a political rally, a show of national solidarity. For the Iranian government to show that even after the war with Israel and the United States, say that because of the war, the government's grip on power has become even stronger.
But not all Iranians remember Khamenei fondly. For over 3
So
decades.
here is the brainwashing that, and they're not going to tell you the entire truth about this, but they're going to give you the U.S. version of what they think it is so that you'll be okay with what the United States and Israel is doing.
Decades, he ran a strict authoritarian government, stoked regional conflict, and oversaw a brutal crackdown on women in 2022. The regime killing hundreds of people and arresting thousands. Today.
So first of all, let's debunk something here. The whole killing of thousands, right, that people were talking about was actually United States actually having actors within Iran actually doing the shooting. And so you think about it, right? Everybody and their mama who is an imperialist been saying, oh my God, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Well, guess what? Ali Khamenei, his fatwa was that Iran must never have a nuclear weapon. He said that. He commanded that they do not have a nuclear weapon. If he was like that, and if he was so against having weapons of mass destruction like that, then why would he cause mass destruction to his own people? So you gotta start asking questions. On top of it, first of all, no country is absolutely perfect, right? The Iranian government does have its issues, just like the United States does, just like Russia does, just like France, Germany, Italy, China, DPRK, Cuba, Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil. You have it, you name it, every country got an issue. But the problem is that Iran's issues are overblown while United States are underblown. That's one of the biggest issues. And so they're using this to say, oh my God, they're so authoritarian. Meanwhile, you got my people being gunned down the street and you got people shooting black boys in the back over some water, and yet they get off scot-free. You want to talk about authoritarian? I'm sorry. How many ICE raids have we been watching in this country? You want to talk about authoritarian? Let's talk about COINTELPRO and how they've been arresting and infiltrating and jailing many people, especially Black revolutionaries who have actually been trying to help us actually have a system that is conducive for workers. You want to talk about authoritarianism? I'm sorry, but since when is it right to actually bomb an entire family in West Philadelphia in 1985? Yes, 1985, which was what, 41 years ago? I was a little baby across the way, across Ben Franklin Bridge in Camden when that happened. You want to talk about authoritarian? Let's talk about Jim Crow laws. You want to talk about authoritarian? How many people from the Black Lives Matter movement that were kidnapped and never seen again by the government? We literally have an Epstein client list full of people who are in our government. You guys want to talk about authoritarian? I'm not saying that these countries are perfect, but what I'm saying is that every accusation is a confession. every accusation is a confession. And so they want to talk about authoritarianism. The United States cannot say nothing. Absolutely nothing. A million Iraqis murdered by this government, and you want to talk about authoritarian? Please. Green lighting the genocide under the Democrats and continue under the Republicans, and you guys don't want to talk about authoritarian. And the authoritarianism doesn't just end at our border. It goes across the world. So if you're an American and talk about, oh my God, this regime is authoritarian, baby, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. You are living under an authoritarian regime, no matter which party it is. Look, Jimmy Carter, authoritarian. Ronald Reagan, authoritarian. George H.W. Bush, authoritarian. Bill Clinton, authoritarian. George W. Bush, authoritarian. Barack Obama, authoritarian. Donald Trump, authoritarian. Joe Biden, authoritarian. Hell, you can go authoritarian to Abraham Lincoln. Yes, his ass was authoritarian too. John F. Kennedy, yup, he was authoritarian. They all are. Every single president that we've ever had was authoritarian. And don't get me started on George Washington. I already talked about him when I talked about Obama, the other authoritarian respecting another authoritarian. So here's the thing. That's why, like, we got to dissect to this. But anyways, I'm going on a tangent. I know some of y'all like me going on tangents, but I'm over time. So, but let's get back into this.
Opposition voices here were silent. We managed to speak to a member of the powerful Revolutionary Guard. They almost never talk to foreign journalists.
Do you think the war is over, or do you think this is just a pause?
We believe this war ends when we avenge the blood of Sayyid Ali Khamenei and his soldiers. The war is not over for us, he said. And
by the way, when he said we will avenge them, guess what? Who started the war? Was it Ali Khamenei and the leaders within Iran? Nope. It was the United States and Israel that started it. That's the facts. And they're like, well, they barely ever speak to the media. Maybe that's on purpose. Or maybe it's Western media that they don't speak to. Let's continue.
Everywhere you looked, there were calls for revenge.
The new supreme leader, Ayatollah Moshtaba, didn't appear today and hasn't been seen since he was injured in the same attack that killed his father. Tom?
So that's basically the imperialist perspective, right? Of course, they couldn't deny the millions of people that were out in the streets. And I'm going to show you guys the magnitude of that. But another contrast I'm going to give you now is this. Shout out to Max Blumenthal in the Gray Zone for this. It's about an hour long. I'm going to share with you guys I'm going to share with you guys the link to this, but he's actually in the car with Professor Mohammed Marandi on the way to the funeral for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And I want you guys to hear some of what Professor Marandi says while on the way.
So, Professor Marandi, where are we going today?
We are going to the funeral. And I think you had some other plans too, but I ruined them for you.
So, what does it mean for you today to go to the funeral of Ali Khamenei?
Well, Ayatollah Khamenei, I knew him personally a bit. He was obviously my father. He were very close friends for a very long time. As I've said many times, I don't get involved in politics up close. I've always steered clear of politics because I thought I would be more effective as a ordinary citizen. So I rarely go places. But I met him, Ayatollah Khamenei, a number of times, and I've actually had 4 private meetings with him over something that he wanted me to do, and it was during the month of Ramadan a few years ago. He was always a very impressive person, very humble, very polite, very knowledgeable. And his command of Persian literature and language is extraordinary. I think everyone would admit that. His Azeri was excellent. His Azeri literature, the most important Azeri literary figure in the last few hundred years was his close friend, Shahryar, the poet. So he was very well informed in Azeri literature. His Arabic, excellent too, excellent, and very well versed in Arabic literature, Islamic texts, the Quran, the Holy Quran, of course. And I think I've told you this before. He would read in English. He's read novels in English. I will tell you a story that I've never told anyone before. But I told half the story. I did early on when I was doing interviews. This was after 2009, a few weeks after, I think, the elections in Iran, the presidential elections. And Ahmadinejad won the elections, whatever one thinks of him. And I was saying that in the public sphere and on Western media, RT, Al Jazeera, and so on. And so once Farid Zakaria invited me, and I was supposed to have a 20-minute debate with him. And they cut it to 8 minutes, and they cut out most of it, which was not good for him. It didn't go well, the debate for him. But in any case, it was like an 8-9 minute debate. And he was very insulting to me and attacked me and made it very personal and called me the mouthpiece of a dying regime and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And Ayatollah Khamenei saw this, or someone showed it to him. And he told me that I met him, and he said that I saw your debate, you did very well. I didn't tell him that they cut the good parts out.
Yeah.
But I thanked him, and he said, I should be careful. He says, I'm a bit surprised because the host, from what I've read of him, he seemed to be more reasonable.
Yeah.
Because he would read Newsweek, Time magazine every week back then when there was a magazine, and not the whole thing, but like the key parts. So he was very fluent in English, very, and of course, Max, he's also a military genius, and look at what he did. This whole military strategy that was devised for decades, the underground facilities, the drones. I'm sure you remember how they used to make fun of Iran's missiles.
Yeah.
How they used to make fun of drones. I mean, Iran was the country that really made drones a thing. And the Russians, of course, would tell you this more than anyone else. They were making fun of Iranian drones, and it was with these capabilities that were developed. And in Iran, inside Iran, he was attacked a lot. They were saying, people were saying, now this is not the era of drones and missiles; it's the era of dialogue and that sort of stuff. And politicians would criticize him. People of influence in the media would criticize him. But he continued to move forward, and he developed this. And even though they murdered him, even though he was martyred, and even though many of the senior commanders were martyred, they won the war.
Yeah.
A dead man won the war against the United States. I want you to sit with that. How powerful is that? Ayatollah Ali Khamenei won the war posthumously against the United States. If that's not a slap in Donald Trump's face, I don't know what the hell is. Even dead, Khamenei spanked Donald Trump. Even dead. Like, are we really like, oh my gosh, I'm getting hot. My head is itching. Like, how in the world are we sitting here thinking that we actually had a chance against Iran? Look, for what it's worth, I'm going to tell you right now, if the Palestinians in tracksuits and sandals could beat the pants off the IOF, what do you think with Iran and all its technological advancement can do against the United States? By the way, let me ask you something. Did you know that Ali Khamenei didn't even want to be the Ayatollah? What if I told you he didn't even want the job? We'll get back to this in a second. Let me share something with you guys, because a lot of people think that every single person in power in another country is somebody that actually wanted to be in power. They were trying to grab power however they can. You see, this is what the United States does. They like to project themselves onto other countries. And I'm going to show you guys that Ali Khamenei didn't actually want the job. And so I shared this with some comrades as well. And they were like, oh my gosh, it's wow. So I'm going to share this. And shout out to Miss Iranian. Also, the account's called Iranian Observer, because this is deep. How he was a man who did not want the job, but it was basically pushed on to him. So I'm going to read this caption first, and then we'll get into it. So it says, a historic turning point, the moment Ayatollah Khamenei became the supreme leader of Iran. History will remember him as a devoted servant who protected his nation until his very last breath. May his soul rest in peace. So let's go into this. It says, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said he didn't want to be Iran's supreme leader. 1989. And was only elected a one-year caretaker period. So because of the music, I'm going to mute just a little bit, and then we'll get into this. So he says, I truly do not deserve this position. He says, I know it, and maybe the gentlemen know it too. So it says his 1989 video has surfaced on social media showing Iran's assembly of experts in an emergency closed-door session. It says they had succeeded to choose a successor to Ayatollah Khamenei, who actually led the Iranian Revolution, by the way. Ayatollah Akbar Hashmi Rafsanjani, I hope I'm saying that right. If I didn't, my apologies. Said Rafsanjani chaired the meeting. Says, I nominate Mr. Khamenei as mid-ranking cleric against Khamenei. As a mid-ranking cleric, Khamenei argued against his nomination. He was like, I don't want the job. He's like, nope. Said, based on the Constitution, I am not qualified for this job. And from a religious point of view, many of you will not accept my words as those of a leader. He said, what sort of leadership will this be? He said, Rafsanjani refused to take no for an answer. He said, then he cut off the debate. Said, no more debating. We're not going to do this no more. All right? He said, we will vote. No more discussions. He said, those who support the leadership of Mr. Khamenei, that is, until a referendum is held, because this is not permanent, please stand up. Watch. Boom. And look at him. He's like, oh my God, I got to be the supreme leader. I did not want this. This was literally a dude who didn't want power. He didn't want power, and it was given to him. That's who they're mourning right now, in the millions right now. So when the United States tries to make it look like some of these leaders in these other countries are people who just want to grab power, no, baby, that's pure projection. That's what they want to do. That's what the United States and the West want to do. These guys are like, look, this is way too heavy. I don't want anything to do with this. Let me just be a servant, and I'm a chill. And I get it, because I'm a lot like that. Like, nah, don't give me all that responsibility, because as the old saying goes, to much is given, much is required. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I don't want to wear the crown. I don't want to have my head being heavy. And also, I don't want to be required too much. And the same thing is with people like Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He was just like, nah, I don't want this. But it was thrust upon him. He was called to be a servant. It was like, oh, fine. I can see, like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Now I got to do this job. And so this is what they don't show you in corporate media. They don't show you that a lot of these people don't want to be the ones in power. They're pulled by the people and said, here, take it. They're like, hi, damn. I think he just wanted to chill and just serve the people. And this is why Professor Morandi said all the things that he said. And Ali Khamenei also was fluent in English. So everything that was being said about him in the United States, he knew. Let's continue on.
Without him and without his leaders, I mean, that is how effective the Iranian military strategy was, that despite the loss of their leadership, it continued to function.
Yeah.
And we, during this war, not last year's war, the 12-day war aside, during this war, we didn't even have a leader for a week.
Right.
And during that week, the people managed the country effectively, but the armed forces continued to strike back, and effectively Iran won. It wasn't that Iran survived. Iran won the war. Until the last moment, they were hitting back day and night. So he is an extraordinary person. That's why millions of people are going to his funeral, in spite of it being in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
And wearing black is not the best thing to do in this weather, but they're wearing this, the color of mourning in Iran.
He was deputy defense minister during the Iran-Iraq war. He was president. I think this background isn't well understood outside Iran, and he helped devise the long-term strategy, including making alliances within the Shia world as a means of deterrence. And then, there was the literary side of Ali Khamenei. Someone who was erudite, learned, is also not well understood. I mean, what was it about him that you think will endure the most? And do you think the war, the success of Iran in deterring this war that was imposed on it, has actually punctured the propaganda about his leadership?
one of the things I want you guys to observe is as the video is playing, I want you guys to look outside the window of Professor Morandi. Do you see a bunch of sand and camels and people just like living in destitution like they want you to believe in this desert? Now, Iran is a dry place, but have you been looking out the window? As they get closer into the city, you're going to swear up and down that you're in the United States. So, yeah, let's continue.
Well, I would say that the alliances that were forged went far beyond the Shia world. I mean, I was in Iraq during the war on ISIS.
Yeah.
And I traveled to those areas that were taken, recaptured. And I was with, for most of my trip, I was with Sunni Hashid groups.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess there's the Palestinian resistance groups as well.
And in Syria too, yes, and the Palestinian resistance, but also Christian the Hashid.
Right.
Christian Hashid. I spent a dinner with a local commander of a Christian Hashid unit. All of them were part of a broad coalition supported by Iran. Or in Syria, I almost always spent my time with Sunni groups in the country.
You did you hear that he said Christian? It wasn't just Muslim, it was Christians as well. It's not just all one religion. I just found that interesting to point out as well.
So there was this broad coalition which was inclusive of anyone that was against the empire, anyone that was against Zionism. And so he created a broad tent, but of course this broad tent would have been much more effective if the U.S. proxies in the region weren't so adamant in creating sectarianism. So the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, the Bahrainis, all those in the Persian Gulf region, especially with their enormous wealth, they did whatever they could to create sectarian divide, religious divide, racial divide. But ultimately, what he was doing was he was trying to create an environment where the Palestinian people were liberated. And his belief was to support the oppressed, the disenfranchised. And that was a policy that he pursued in Iran. And we've had different governments in Iran with different ideological persuasions. Some were liberal, some were leftist, some were, but he was always pushing the administrations to do more for the deprived and for the disenfranchised. In neighborhoods that were poor, in cities that were more impoverished, in town, villages. And so you know Iran pretty well, but almost all Iranians are literate. There you'll have electricity everywhere.
Yeah.
You have natural gas everywhere in all cities, in most villages, and running water, even though Iran is a somewhat dry country. So a lot has been done for the disenfranchised, and it's because of him and before him, Imam Khamenei, who was the founder of the revolution, that these policies were pursued. So his support for the oppressed, for the disenfranchised, I think, was key. And Iran's support for the Palestinian people is very deep.
Yeah.
Even though we, the West and the Arabic media and the Persian media in the West tries to itself divide the Iranians from the Arabs and the Shias from the Sunnis, and they're constantly showing footage of how like Palestinian Sunnis hate Iran,
Right.
you know, the Persian media in the West speaking into Iran, and they'll find this like Palestinian Sunnis to say how evil Iran is and then they would say, look, your government is helping these people and they hate Iran. But despite that, he and his supporters were always steadfast in supporting the Palestinian people. They'd see through the propaganda, they would see through the attempts to create these divisions, and it remains. And you know, in the Arab world, the regimes would always say that the Iranians are not sincere in their support for the Palestinian cause.
Yeah.
Ayatollah Khamenei, I think, is definitely the greatest martyr for the Palestinian cause.
The greatest martyr for the Palestinian cause. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share that. So let's get into this as well. I want you guys to see the numbers. Donald Trump could never in his life get this many people together. Not AI. Not AI. Raw footage. Millions of people in the streets. Millions of people in these streets that are literally mourning this man. I'm going to show you guys another one, and I'm going to show you why this is so significant, because you need to know the weight of this. And so let me share this as well. So you guys can see. Because I want you guys to get the magnitude of how big this is. So this is from Arya Yadaghar. Says, Dizam, look at this crowd. It's been exactly 16 hours since the people are coming out and the Masala prayer hall in Tehran. And it's been the most crowded it's ever been right now. All bid farewell to our martyred leader in the biggest funeral ceremony in modern history. Let's take a look. So the millions of people that you see, Ali Khamenei was the equivalent to the Pope. That's how big this is. I want you guys to really sit with that. If the Pope was murdered by the United States, how would the Christian world behave? How would they act? How would they react? How would everyone in all of Italy, as well as Vatican, react to the Pope being murdered by the United States? How do you think they would react? Especially at his funeral. Do you think there'd be millions in the street? Yes, I would expect so. That's how big this is. This is the equivalent of the Pope being murdered. And his family. Do you recognize the magnitude of this? I want people to sit with that. Billions of Muslims around the world. And we're not just talking about Arab Muslims. We're talking about Black and white and Asian Muslims. We're talking about all of them. You don't think some of them black Muslims in New York and Philadelphia, they're not mourning Ali Khamenei? They are. No more than a bunch of black, white, Arab, Hispanic Catholics would be mourning the Pope. So that's how big this is. Donald Trump, he messed up big time. Because you touched the one person that they said do not touch. That's the magnitude of this. I haven't even shown you guys a lot of the footage. Because there's so much coming out of Iran right now. They're in the millions, tens of millions of people. And all you have to do is go down Max Blumenthal's page and or the Gray Zones page. I mean, they literally did a drone tribute to him. They literally did that too. Like, well, while the United States was celebrating the 4th of July, which really is just a celebration of imperialism and colonialism, in my view. But look at what they did. Drones created an illumination of a clenched fist over the Tehran prayer hall. This is meant to be symbolic for when they found Ayatollah Khamenei after the strike. He had a clenched fist. So he died. So it's just like, that's how big this is. This is literally the biggest funeral in history. In history. That's the magnitude of this. People from all over, dignitaries have come to pay their respects. The Yemenis, the people from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Turkey, Jordan, like, they came to pay their respects. A lot of these people who are Muslim came to pay their respects. So the magnitude of this should not be ignored. And yeah, a lot of people over the weekend were celebrating Rah Rah America 250. But that was nowhere near what was going on in Iran. And I think one of the things we have to keep in perspective is that while we are doing what we can to change the system, we also have to recognize the harm that our system has caused to other people around the world, as well as within our own country. And as we look at what our country has done to Iran, it's really not that much different than what our country has done to Native Americans and Black Americans. Who did it start off with? Native Americans, then it jumped to Black Americans, then it jumped, and it also went outward. While we're still being taken advantage of, while we're still being murdered in these streets, there's a story out right now where a young Black man went on a trip with a bunch of his white friends and he wound up missing. They just found his body. He's dead. Constantly being oppressed and suppressed. This is why I have solidarity with all the oppressed peoples around the world, because between Black Americans and Native Americans, we're the first victims of these regimes that rule over us. And so we see the oppression that they are going through, and we're like, yeah, we went through the same thing. And we're still going through the same thing. So, guys, please continue to don't just focus on what corporate media is telling you. Don't just focus on what people want you to understand. This is why research is so beneficial for you to do yourself. And also recognize that Iranians are not dumb. In fact, they're some of the smartest people on this planet, right? I'm going to show you this with you. Max Blumenthal was on the ground during this day of mourning, and he's talking to a young Iranian. And he said, a common sentiment at the funeral for Khamenei was an incandescent rage at the American leadership that is authorized to his assassination, but a refusal to hold average Americans collectively responsible for the crime. Let's share.
American people, we don't have problem with you or problem with your government. Your government attacked our country and kill our super middle, kill one most the historic great person and kill very children in the Mina.
First of all, I also want to point something out to anybody who is stuck on, oh my God, the Iranians, they hate anybody that's Jewish. They're literally he's literally being interviewed by a Jewish person. By the way, they have a very large Jewish population in Iran. They have synagogues and everything. Able to celebrate Passover, able to go to their synagogue and have their bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs and all that good stuff. And they're not oppressed in Iran. So yes, you can be Jewish and practice Judaism in Iran safely. But I digress. Let's continue on.
Never start war in the world, but if you start war, we stand and fighting with you. American people.
So basically, that's what they've been saying, right? They despise our government. What's different from us? Hang on, wait. Do you despise your government? I guess there's some continuity between you and Iranians. Because look at the approval rating. The approval rating for Congress is in the tank. The approval rating for Donald Trump is in the tank. I guess Iranians and Americans have something in common. We both hate our government. Maybe, just maybe, you should see as to who they are before placing judgment on them. And people are like, oh my God, they're screaming death to America. Here's the thing. What has America done in our names to them? Why would they be saying that? They hate us for our freedoms. They just want you to get the hell out. They just want you to get out their house. Stop stinking up their house. Stop eating all their food. Stop putting holes in their walls. Just leave. Leave them alone. But you know the United States can't do that, right? This is why the United States will continue to do this until we as a people change the system from the inside. But us average Americans, Iranians don't hate us. Hell, it was the leadership in Iran that said, hey, especially you Black Americans, hey, we ain't got no beef with y'all. We cool. It's y'all government. And we Black Americans, we were like, oh, for real? All right, cool. Okay, all right, cool. All right, peace. I hope y'all, get to where y'all need to go. And we were like, peace out. All right, we good. Because who's been hurting us? The government. Hell, slavery's still legal in this country. Do Black Americans still got beef with the U.S. government? Hell yeah, we do. So that's something we got in common. So it's time to start looking for commonality among your fellow human beings. And let's get rid of the system so that the oppression stops. And my hope is that this war stops and then we can really have true peace. But like Dr. King said, not peace in the absence of tension, but peace in the presence of justice. All right, guys, thank you so very much for that. You guys have been troopers sticking with me this long. I appreciate it very much. Let's get into the comments and then we will head on out. Let's get into the Kick chat to see if we have any gifted subs. And then we will get into the Rumble side. Okay, we're good on Kick. Rumble side, where you at? You have any Rumble rants? Talk to me. Come and talk to me. I really want to meet you. Can I talk to you? I really want to talk to you. Come and talk to me. Oh my gosh. Now y'all got me in that song. I've been watching you for so very long. Can you imagine Keith Sweat singing that song instead? How would that sound? Very interesting. Anyways, so let's get into the rest of the chat, guys. I hear Roger clickety clacking typing right now. Okay. Let's see. Edward says, JB, it would be great if you could invite Professor Morandi on your show. I wish. I would love to have him on. He's a great example of balanced thought because, he has lived here in the United States before. And so I would love to be able to have a conversation with him. Okay, so maybe it's just me doubting myself, but I feel like I'm just not at that level yet. It's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm not, maybe it's my imposter syndrome talking to me, but it's like all these people who I really want to talk to, I haven't actually reached out to them yet because it's like, I'm not at that level yet. Like, I'm not at a Danny Haifong, Jamal Thomas, Savvy Sabs level. I'm not at that, Garland Nixon level, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm not at that Margaret Kimberly level. So it's just like, yeah, I want to do it, but at the same time, it's just like, I got a lot more to learn, But I would love to be able to have them on, to be able to have these conversations, to be educated, by someone who's so knowledgeable about this. But And I'm already lucky that I've been able to talk to some of these people. Like, for instance, Margaret Kimberly, like, she's like a reservoir of knowledge, man. I feel like I got more development to do. But thank you very much. I know people who can get in contact with him, but I don't know. I got to do better. Let me see. Edward says the Ayatollah outsmarted Trump, the Trump administration. He was prepared. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. Edward says, can you imagine Trump saying he doesn't want to become president? No, he wanted the power to do whatever he wanted. On the other hand, the Ayatollah is a moral man. Yeah. This is also true, Edward. I'm sorry, Roger. He says Trump 2016 actually didn't want power. He was using 2016 as a way to parlay into Trump TV. That's why he did it and said everything he could to disqualify himself. When he won, he was surprised. Yeah, because he didn't realize that Americans were that desperate. They were. But he loves the adulation. He loves the people clapping for him. That's what he likes. You know, as far as running things, I mean, he got his son-in-law to do that. Holly said, oh, the IDF bombed the synagogue in Iran. See, Israel does not care about Jewish people. Whether in Israel or outside within the rest of the diaspora, they don't care about Jewish people either. They just don't. Let me see. A court lawyer says, Holly, hope you're well. Let me see. Oh, Sean says, gave my gift a sub 3 hours ago, JB. Oh, snap. Oh, I'm so sorry. You did give one? Oh, no. Did I miss out on it? Hang on. Oh, you did. Oh, man. Hang on. Let me share the screen. I want to make sure that I share it. I appreciate anything, everything. All right. Thank you so very much to Sean Rockers for giving me a gifted sub here. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. That's awesome. Appreciate it so much. All right. Let's continue on. Let me see here. Let me see here. He said you'll get to that eventually. Yeah. Thank you so very much. And I saw something that I wanted to see. Let me see. Nihilo says, so the war's over now. I think the memorandum of understanding is a Trojan horse. It's just we'll meet about meeting and come to an agreement soon. You know, it's just like, let's just chill on the fighting right now. And even then, they're still trying to, you know, the United States and Israel still trying to take shots. I mean, the United States and Israel literally are like doing some absolute horrible things at the same time. Let me see. And in fact, maybe I should include this because it's just after the funeral. The U.S. ain't shit, man. Look, it says U.S. Central Command forces have begun launching a series of powerful strikes against Iran to impose heavy costs for targeting and attacking commercial shipping crewed by innocent civilians in international waterway. U.S. strikes are in response to Iranian attacks on 3 commercial vessels that were transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Iran demonstrated aggression was unwarranted, dangerous, and a clear violation of the ceasefire. My question is, what did the United States do? Did they actually, the United States did some, they did some BS. Says breaking, oh my gosh, major U.S. airstrikes carried out on Shahid Haqqani port in Bandar Abbas, southern Iran. This is literally live, guys. Oh my gosh. They're literally like the United States literally just Jesus Christ. U.S. launches strike against Iran in response to the Strait of Hormuz aggression. How long ago was this tweet? Was this tweet just seconds ago? What the hell, man? Oh my gosh. This war continues, man. This is crazy. Guys, I got to go, but I'm going to keep an eye on what's going on. This is ridiculous, but that's why I'm here. And do not let this news bring you into despair. Let's drive it to action to actually help out our fellow people so that we can change this system. And I thank you guys for showing up for today. Water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Thank you so much to Kevin Ronca for showing up and talking about the censorship against him. Also to everybody, do all the things if you got him, but especially please continue to have solidarity with your neighbors and then learn and meet people where they're at. I love you for being you. Mwah, forehead kisses. I'll see you guys in the next one. Good night. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you'd like to see any more, you can look here. Mwah, forehead kisses.